Chapter 608. Stronger than Qin? Won't they be a great threat to China in the future? Nu Lu asked worriedly. Zhao Fu nodded and said, That's for sure. Their population isn't any weaker than China's, and their history and culture aren't weak either. Moreover, India's territory isn't as big as China's territory, and they have more people in each region than China, making it easier to gather them. As such, regardless of whether they attack or defend, they have an advantage. They're definitely China's greatest enemy in the Midland continent, and they're their strongest competitor. Even Russia is much weaker than them. Then do you have a way to stop them, Lord Husband? Hearing Zhao Fu, who stood at the peak of China, say such a thing, Nu Lu felt quite worried about China's future. Zhao Fu had thought about this before lightly laughing and saying to Nu Lu, What do you think? Nu Lu thought about it and kissed Zhao Fu's cheek as she shyly smiled and said, I believe that Lord Husband is the strongest. Zhao Fu couldn't help but laugh. Looking at the shy person in front of him, he lowered his head and kissed Nu Lu's lips before awkwardly sticking his tongue in. Nu Lu shyly responded to Zhao Fu, and their tongues intertwined. Both of their bodies' temperatures rose, and an ambiguous aura spread out. At that moment, Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and touched Nu Lu's chest. He had said that it was quite big, but now that he touched it, he found that it was quite shocking. It was even bigger than Long Xiao's. Zhao Fu loosened his mouth, but he did not let go. He made some light movements before looking at the red-faced Nu Lu in his embrace and lightly laughed. Nu Lu shyly tightly hugged Zhao Fu and buried her head in Zhao Fu's embrace as she asked in a small voice, Lord Husband, do you want it? I'm ready. Zhao Fu smiled as he took off Nu Lu's clothes, revealing her white skin. It was enough to make anyone's body burn with desire. Do you like her? A voice suddenly rang in Zhao Fu's mind. It was the Golden Dragon's voice. Zhao Fu paused and felt quite confused. He did not know how to reply to the Golden Dragon because he could not explain his feelings towards Nu Lu. What's wrong, husband? Seeing that Zhao Fu had stopped, Nu Lu looked up and asked shyly. Zhao Fu chuckled and shook his head, but he didn't do anything. Nu Lu's face became red as she lightly bit her lips and took the initiative to take off her clothes, revealing her jade-like body and the massive things in front of her chest. She then took the initiative to kiss Zhao Fu's lips, and her tongue stuck in Zhao Fu's mouth. Then let's begin. I know the darkest thoughts in your heart. The Golden Dragon's calm voice rang in Zhao Fu's mind. Zhao Fu lightly pushed Nu Lu over and helped her put on her clothes. Nu Lu looked quite surprised and could not understand why Zhao Fu was doing this. Do you really know? Zhao Fu asked the Golden Dragon with a calm voice. Nu Lu looked quite confused and did not understand what Zhao Fu meant. Seeing how confused she was, Zhao Fu explained about the Golden Dragon, causing Nu Lu to lightly cry out. Her face once again became red as she buried her head into Zhao Fu's chest. The Golden Dragon's voice sounded quite confused as he asked, Why aren't you continuing? Don't worry about me. In actuality, I'm also a woman. I know what you're thinking. She's your mother. All right, what do you want to say? Hurry up and say it. Could it be that your fate dragons are split into men and women? Zhao Fu cut off the Golden Dragon's words. I can't explain things to you right now. What I want to say is, do you want to control India's nation armament and clan armament? The Golden Dragon asked. Hearing the Golden Dragon's words, Zhao Fu felt quite uncertain and wondered if he had heard incorrectly. He asked to confirm, Are you saying that I can control other countries' nation armaments and clan armaments? Of course. Otherwise, why would I be talking to you? The Golden Dragon said as he rolled his eyes at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu felt quite shocked because this was almost impossible. Nation armaments were the most important and fundamental items of a nation, and only the legatee of that nation could use them. Let alone using them, others would not even be allowed to touch them, or they would be devoured by the backlash. Zhao Fu felt quite shocked. As such, Zhao Fu was quite shocked when he heard the Golden Dragon's words. What method is that? Zhao Fu asked after calming himself down. The Golden Dragon replied, That's a bit troublesome, so you need to make some preparations. If it wasn't for the fact that I feel that India is a great threat and that it's better to deal with it as soon as possible, I wouldn't have told you this method. Zhao Fu nodded seriously. As long as he could obtain a nation armament, it would be understandable if it was a bit troublesome. The Golden Dragon explained, Zhao Fu, don't you have the Emperor Phoenix statue? First, capture all of the women with Phoenix Chi in that country's royal family, the more the better. Use their Phoenix Chi to weaken the nation armament's resistance, and then use the heaven and earth refining formation to forcefully refine the nation armament. If you still want to use their nation armaments, you'll need to capture at least 100,000 of their people. The more, the better. Have them complete the transfer of fate, and only then will you be able to use their nation armaments. If you want to use their nation armament, it'll be even more troublesome. The method is the same as before. Capture all of India's women with Phoenix Chi and use their Phoenix Chi to weaken the clan armament's resistance. That won't do. It'll be best to heavily injure their clan and cause the clan armament to weaken. That way, it'll be easier to deal with the clan armament. Afterward, you'll use the great heaven and earth refining to forcefully refine it. You'll also need to capture at least 1 million of their people and have them submit to you. After hearing the Golden Dragon's words, Zhao Fu felt quite shocked. According to what the Golden Dragon had said, wouldn't it be able to steal nation armaments from dynasties? A single nation armament was already so terrifying. If countless nation armaments were gathered together, wouldn't they be able to kill gods and destroy laws? Just thinking about it was terrifying and shocking. Zhao Fu could not help but feel excited, and he asked, will this really work? Also, what's the great heaven and earth refining? The Golden Dragon felt quite helpless as he replied, of course it's true. Back then, the Heaven Murder Empire had countless nation armaments. Back then, we didn't have the Emperor Phoenix statue, so it would have been even more troublesome to deal with them. There's also the great heaven and earth refining, which is to gather 10 people with great fate and great power to gather the heaven and earth fate and refine them. After hearing the Golden Dragon's explanation, Zhao Fu felt much more at ease. However, after thinking about it, he realized that the Heaven Murder Empire, which had such terrifying power, had still been destroyed in the end. This was quite shocking. When thinking about this, Zhao Fu decided not to think about it. Now that he had this method, Zhao Fu had even more reason to make a move against India. Chapter 609. I've decided to act against India, Zhao Fu said to Nu Lu in his embrace. Hearing this, Nu Lu kissed Zhao Fu on the cheek and lightly smiled as she said, I knew that husband would definitely take care of this. Zhao Fu laughed. If it wasn't for the fact that the Golden Dragon had said that he could take nation armaments and clan armaments, Zhao Fu would not have been able to make such a decision. All right, I'm going to return to the real world now, Zhao Fu said. Nu Lu lightly nodded before thinking of something and saying, Husband, I've been in Qin City for so long and haven't told anyone about my family situation. I've been in Great Qin for so long, but I haven't told anyone about my family situation yet. Can you help me tell the ancient clans that I'm doing well and that they don't need to worry? Zhao Fu nodded and agreed before returning to the real world. After returning to the real world, Zhao Fu called Mu Gillen and had him bring over all of the information he had on India. He then had people invite Su Yuyin over. Su Yuyin came before Zhao Fu and looked quite surprised. It had always been very difficult for others to meet with Zhao Fu, and it was the first time that Zhao Fu had taken the initiative to meet with someone, and it was her. What is it? Don't tell me you miss me. Su Yuyin joked as she sat next to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, Looks like you're quite narcissistic. I want Flower Moon to help me find information on some people. With Flower Moon's abilities, it should be quite easy. I can consider working with Flower Moon and not act against Flower Moon's people in the future. Moreover, I can protect Flower Moon in the future and even provide a safe place after establishing a kingdom. Su Yin's expression became serious and understood how important this matter was. If they could rely on Qin City, Flower Moon would be much safer and would not have to worry about any dangers. Who do you want information on? Su Yin asked. Zhao Fu answered without hesitation. I want information on everyone in the Shaler family. The Ying family's influence was huge, but it was limited to China. Although they could find out some information, it was not detailed. On the other hand, Flower Moon's influence was spread all over the world, and they were very good at gathering information. That was why Zhao Fu needed to cooperate with them. Su Yuyin also understood and asked in surprise, "Is Qin going to attack India?" Zhao Fu didn't mind and nodded. Su Yuyin smiled and said, "I can cooperate with Qin on behalf of Flower Moon. Also, what about the 3 of us that Qin captured? It's unlikely that I'll let them go. Now that I've been made a concubine by the emperor, I can promise to help you take care of them," Zhao Fu said apologetically. What? They were conferred the title of concubines? Su Yuyin asked, pleasantly surprised. She and Flower Moon's people thought that they had been captured by Great Qin's legatee to be used as sex tools to be tortured every day. With how cruel that legatee was, this was quite possible. However, they had become concubines, which had a high status in Qin. Now, they didn't need to worry about them anymore. In fact, Su Yuyin didn't expect that all of the women that Zhao Fu had captured had been made concubines. Zhao Fu lightly nodded in response. Su Yuyin happily leaned over. Seeing that, Zhao Fu didn't have time to react and was pushed onto the sofa by her. Then, Su Yuyin pressed her fragrant lips onto Zhao Fu's and stuck her tongue into Zhao Fu's mouth. Then, they intertwined their tongues and sucked each other. A few minutes later, Su Yiyin's cheeks were red, and she panted as she looked at Zhao Fu. "Thank you. It's because of you that Emperor Qin cooperated with Flower Moon and made us concubines." Zhao Fu was quite surprised and hadn't expected such a thing to happen. Looking at this big star, he wanted to explain. However, Su Yuyin lowered her head and kissed Zhao Fu's lips again. A few minutes later, Su Yuyin tidied up her clothes and said coquettishly, "I'm going now. If you want to go further, it'll depend on your performance." Seeing Su Yuyin leave, Zhao Fu didn't know what had happened between them. Zhao Fu shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Then, he secretly sent the message to all parts of China, and everyone in China was delighted. They had never thought that Emperor Qin would act against India. India was China's #1 enemy, and all the factions and dynasties feared it greatly. Now that India had occupied 13 regions, it was like a sharp sword stabbing into China's heart, causing them great pain. Now, almost all of China's borders had been taken back, and they had even invaded some other countries' regions. However, India had not taken back China's territory. On the internet, Indian netizens said that the 13 regions already belonged to India, and they told the Chinese people to scram. However, despite this, China was unable to do anything to India. India was simply too powerful, and with Shama overseeing the battle, China had failed many times. China's failures had undoubtedly helped India become even more arrogant, and there were many similar discussions on the internet. "What Chinese? They're just trash. Can you beat me?" As expected, India is the #1 country in the world. Even China doesn't dare to touch us. Strength proves everything. Our Lord Shama is invincible, and no one in China is a match for him. That's right. Our Lord Shama is the strongest, and no one in China can compare to him. I heard that Emperor Qin is very powerful. Call him out if he has the guts. The smaller countries that had failed to invade and had been beaten up by China were naturally quite angry. Now that China had suffered a loss, they were incredibly happy, and they would definitely stand on India's side and speak up for India. However, their tone was quite unpleasant. "We admit that those territories belong to India. You Chinese people, scram. Great India is #1 and China is #2. China is trash. India has conquered your territory, and yet you're attacking us? As expected, you're all weak in front of India. We support India in beating up China." These words caused many Chinese people to sigh and feel incredibly furious. They did everything they could to attack India, and all of the various sects and factions tried everything they could, but they were unable to break through India's defenses. They could only suppress their anger and feel like exploding. Some people thought about Qin and hoped that Qin would help, but they did not want to. Qin was not in the west of China, and with what had happened before, It was impossible for Qin to help China. Moreover, even if Qin wanted to help, they had only just recovered and could not use any of their fate. How could Emperor Qin be a match for Shama? Now, Shama had a nation armament and clan armament, as well as massive amounts of fate. Anyone who came would lose. Chapter 610. Even the dynasty legatees that were hostile to Qin supported this, as India was slapping all of China in the face. It was a pity that they had tried, but they had all failed. In actuality, they had long since understood that they were inferior to Qin's legatee, and Qin would be able to easily resolve the problems they faced. After receiving Zhao Fu's message and Nu Lu's message, the ancient clans felt much more at ease. With Nu Lu's beauty, the ancient clans could almost imagine what kind of treatment Nu Lu would receive and how pitiful her situation would be, making them feel incredibly pained. However, they could not ask Qin to hand her over, as she had done all of this willingly. Now that they heard that Nu Lu was doing well and that Qin was willing to deal with India, the ancient clans understood that Nu Lu had achieved her goal. She had turned Qin over to the right path, and this was something that the entire ancient clans wanted to see. Even the elderly woman, who had opposed this before, smiled and expressed her support for Nu Lu's actions. The only person who opposed this was Xianyuan Xiao. He had not received this news yet, and he was focused on becoming more powerful in the Heaven Awakened world. As Xianyuan Xiao's descendant, he would definitely have a powerful legacy. The other 100 schools of thought were also quite happy about Qin's change, and they were willing to do some things for China. From how they saw it, there was no need for Qin to do anything, as their positions were different. Moreover, Qin had just recovered, so they would not ask Qin to do anything. However, it had taken the initiative to step forward. With the support of all sides, a trace of a smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face. The first step of the plan had been a success, and after obtaining all of the Shama family's information from Flower Moon, the second step of the plan had been a success. Zhao Fu returned to the Heaven Awakened world and started to carry out the plan. The first was to modify the Otherworld Gate. Because of how powerful the Otherworld Gate was, not only could it teleport people across worlds, but it could also teleport people across regions. However, because of the restrictions, it could only teleport one person at a time. However, it could continuously teleport people, and Zhao Fu planned to take 50,000 assassins with him. The Otherworld Gate could teleport 12 people in 1 minute, 120 people in 10 minutes, 720 people in 1 hour, and about 17,000 people in a day. 50,000 people would need to be continuously teleported for more than 2 days to reach the west of the continent. Zhao Fu understood that it would be very dangerous this time, so he gave the 50,000 assassins talisman equipment. These talisman equipment were all made of blue-grade materials and blue-grade talisman stones, and they were comparable to ordinary gold-grade equipment. Whether it was weapons or defensive equipment, because this kind of rune equipment belonged to the assassin profession, the previous kind of armor wasn't suitable for assassins, so it was changed to the lighter and more portable inner armor. Most of the 50,000 assassins had Stage 1 cultivation, and some had even broken through to Stage 2. Zhao Fu had brought the 12 people from the assassin legacy, because he had other missions for them. He also brought the 100 ghost illusionists. As for the others, Zhao Fu left them all in Qin. Everything was handed over to Qin State, and everything was handed over to Bai Qi. After preparing everything, Zhao Fu took 50,000 assassins to the west of China. After all, such a big matter had shaken all of China, and it was impossible for India not to know about it. After hearing that Qin was participating, Shama and the various large factions' expressions became quite serious. This was because if Qin was participating, this battle would go from difficult level to nightmare level. Everyone acknowledged how terrifying Qin was, and no one doubted how terrifying he was. The only thing that was fortunate was that Qin had only just recovered, and both Qin and Qin's legatee were still in a weakened state. This made them feel much more at ease. If Qin was at his peak, no one would want to face him head-on. It was not that they would definitely lose this time, and there was a chance that they would win. If they could really destroy Great Qin, India's fate reputation, and fame would all be greatly boosted. No one in the world would think that India was weaker than China, and they would think that India was stronger than China. India was now the most powerful country in the world. Moreover, as long as they could defeat Qin, there would be nothing to fear in China. They would be able to launch another invasion, and this time, India would launch a full-scale invasion without any worries. After all, apart from Qin, there was nothing to fear in all of China. He, Shama, would replace Qin's legatee and stand at the peak of the world. He would look down on the heavens and earth, and everyone would have to submit to him. Shama and the various large factions in India discussed and continuously sent countless soldiers over. This time, they could only succeed and not fail. They had to cause the flames of war to spread throughout China and trample on the proud Chinese people, allowing India to reach the peak of the world. On the Chinese side, the various sects madly sent in soldiers. With Qin's participation, they were incredibly excited and felt incredibly confident. The ordinary people's reactions were even more intense, and they excitedly yelled. Not only were there massive rewards, but with how terrifying Great Qin was, countless people believed that under Great Qin's leadership, they would be able to break through India's defenses and chase out all of the Indian players, allowing them to vent their anger. The people from India and Huaxia continued to pour in from all directions. Their aura gradually rose, and in the end, it reached a level that shook the heavens. At a glance, it was a sea of people, a black mass that stretched as far as the eye could see. This was not only a clash between two large countries, but it was also a clash between two large ethnic groups. This battle would shock the world, and it would be recorded in history for thousands of years. The entire world was paying close attention to this battle. Whether it was the descendants of King Arthur, the Pharaoh Kingdom, or the Mei Kingdom, everyone was watching. The Midland continent was a good place, but it was also filled with endless disputes. With both China and India here, many people had already predicted that they would clash. They also understood that this battle would determine the structure of the Midland continent, and it would even affect the entire world. After all, China and India accounted for 2/8 of the world's population, and they could definitely affect the structure of the world. If China won this battle, no one would be able to shake China's position, but if India won, India would replace China's position. However, even if one ignored everything else, just the scene of the two large countries clashing was enough to make people feel incredibly excited. Back in the west of China, Zhao Fu spent more than 2 days before finally bringing over 50,000 people. Zhao Fu then gave Liu Mei and the others some missions for them to carry out in secret. Following this, Zhao Fu led the 50,000 assassins to where the Chinese army was stationed. Chapter 611. Qin's here. Suddenly, there was a loud shout, and the noisy scene immediately became quiet. Countless people looked in the direction of the voice. A person wearing a black cloak and giving off a terrifying, mysterious, and noble aura walked out with hooded figures who gave off cold auras. Countless people made way for them and looked in that direction with curiosity, respect, and fear. They were Qin's people, and they were indeed terrifying. The person walking in front was most likely Qin's legatee. Seeing the famous legatee Qin with their own eyes, countless people felt both excited and afraid. However, the scene remained silent. In the building at the center of the crowd, the representatives of the other large factions walked out and walked toward Zhao Fu. "I'm Liu Yi from the Great Han Dynasty." Liu Yi led everyone over to Zhao Fu and gave a trace of a smile as he introduced himself. Zhao Fu looked at the scholarly-looking young man in front of him and nodded as he replied, "I'm Qin's legatee." Liu Yi felt a bit awkward towards Zhao Fu's simple and hidden answer, and he did not understand why Zhao Fu was hiding his identity. However, things were more important, so Liu Yi did not mind too much. As for the Great Tang Dynasty and Great Qin Dynasty, they were quite wary of seeing Qin's legatee. Because there was enmity between them, they did not come. However, as one of the 5 ancient countries, Liu Yi had some confidence, so he came to see this person who he was wary of. This war was mainly divided into 4 war zones, which were held in 4 different regions. Everyone else had come out of courtesy and would head to their respective war zones later. Zhao Fu had come to the main region, and he was going to face the Indian army head-on. The 40 million soldiers were all under Zhao Fu's command. Following this, Zhao Fu exchanged pleasantries with everyone, and the other large factions' impression of Zhao Fu changed. Now that they had seen Qin Shin's legatee, they found that he was not as barbaric and violent as the rumors said. Instead, he was quite gentle and friendly. Following this, the battle began, and everyone else left. Zhao Fu took charge of the situation, and with Imperial Prince Qin's reputation, no one dared to defy him. All of them seemed very obedient and loyal, because this time their confidence was all given by Qin. Without Qin, they would not have such confidence. Zhao Fu also came to the high platform, his voice full of majesty and sonorous. You don't have to worry about anything. This time, China will definitely win. Just charge forward. Qin doesn't want anything from the battlefield. He will even reward you. This time, let these barbarians see the true power of China. Kill them all. China will win. China will win. China will win. Countless people shouted excitedly, their voices deafening, echoing out for dozens of li. Their fighting spirit was high, as if they were truly invincible. Zhao Fu also revealed a satisfied smile and led them to officially set off. The massive crowd gave off a terrifying aura as they surged forward, seeming like they were going to destroy everything. Very quickly, Zhao Fu led the massive crowd to India's defensive wall. Looking at the 20-meter-tall wall made of massive rocks, it seemed that it would not be easy to break through. The top of the wall was filled with countless people, all of them holding weapons and looking excited and filled with battle intent. They did not seem to be afraid at all, and it seemed that both sides had been encouraging each other. Neither side's battle intent was weak. The two armies faced off, and the atmosphere was incredibly tense. Both sides were like berserk beasts, giving off threatening roars. Zhao Fu stood in the air and looked at the Indian army in front of him. He slowly raised his hand and pointed forwards as he said, "Charge!" Boom! His voice was like the eruption of a mountain, and the air seemed to explode. The huge wave of people was like a flood, rushing towards the Indian army. Swish, swish, swish! The sound of the air being torn could be heard as countless arrows flew out from the top of the wall and landed on the ground. Many people were hit by the arrows and died. The Chinese side also drew their bows and knocked arrows before shooting out. Many people on the top of the wall were hit by the arrows, causing them to cry out in pain. The massive crowd quickly rushed to the bottom of the wall and set up ladders and threw down countless flying logs. The Indian people on the top of the wall continuously shot down arrows and threw down heavy objects. They even poured boiling oil on them, launching a powerful counterattack. The Chinese side suffered many casualties. Some fell from the sky, some were crushed to death by heavy objects, and some were poured boiling oil on them, causing them to cry out in pain. The Chinese side continued to attack, and the scene was incredibly intense. However, their morale had weakened because they had suffered many casualties. However, at that moment, a gray fog covered the 20-kilometer-wide wall, and the people within it lost all signs of life. On Qin's side, the 100 Ghost Illusionists had made their move. Right now, Great Qin's 300 Ghost Illusionists were all at least at Stage 2, and most of them were just a bit away from breaking through to Stage 3. If they didn't have Stage 3 cultivation and their willpower wasn't strong enough, they wouldn't be able to break free from the illusion and would be stuck in the Dark Ghost world. Now that this side was under control, countless Chinese players rushed over and set up ladders to quickly climb up the wall. However, the people on the top of the wall did not dare to enter, because if they did, they would fall into the illusion as well. Seeing that the wall was about to be easily taken down, Shama finally couldn't help but act. He took out his City Lord seal, causing a massive aura to explode out. Azure light shot out in all directions, looking incredibly resplendent. The ghostly chi in the dark ghost realm quickly dissipated. Ghost-type skills were very afraid of things that countered ghosts. Xing, a massive black sword light, bringing with it an incredibly sharp sword wind, tore through the air and slashed toward Shama. Zhao Fu exploded out with the power of the Qin seal and started to attack Shama. Facing this terrifying attack, Shama slashed out with his saber, sending out a massive azure saber light that collided with the black sword light and exploded. However, after the black sword light exploded, it turned into countless traces of sword chi that shot toward Shama. Shama was given a big fright and stretched out his hand. A hemispherical azure barrier appeared in front of him, blocking the countless traces of black sword chi. However, the Sanskrit chanting stopped, and the ghostly chi on the wall once again started to spread out. However, Shama was not in the mood to worry about this, and his expression became serious because a person had appeared in front of him. He knew who this person was. Only Qin's legatee had such power, and he was the person that Shama feared the most. If Shama only used his City Lord Seal's power, he definitely wouldn't be able to defeat Zhao Fu. After all, Zhao Fu had a great City Lord Seal and 23 City Lord Seals, while Shama only had a great City Lord Seal, so he definitely wouldn't be able to defeat Zhao Fu. Chapter 6:12. Boom! An explosion sounded out as Shama tilted his saber and exploded out with a terrifying aura. An azure aura of flame erupted around his body, and Shama's clothes fluttered in the wind. Shama's power had reached its peak, and he looked like a peerless expert. Zhao Fu gripped the Sin Dragon sword, and his expression became serious. He first closed his eyes and lightly breathed out before suddenly opening them and exploding out with his City Lord Seal and King's power. A berserk gale spread out as a massive black aura flowed out from Zhao Fu's body, surrounding Zhao Fu and covering Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu's body could not be seen at all, and only his blood-red eyes could be seen. Within the black aura, they looked like two blood-red gems, giving off a brilliant blood-red light. His aura was just as terrifying, making him seem like a demon. Shama was the first to attack, and he instantly rushed toward Zhao Fu. He slashed out with his saber, sending out a massive azure saber chi towards Zhao Fu like a gale. Shing! The black aura gave off a sword hum as a massive black crescent flew out. It was incredibly sharp, and it seemed as if it could easily tear apart space itself. As it flashed by, the black aura around Zhao Fu dissipated. Bang! The black crescent moon instantly split the cyan gale in two. The cyan gale exploded and turned into an even more berserk gale that spread out. The people below were directly cut into several pieces by the cyan gale. The scene was bloody. Shing! Shama held his saber and casually slashed out, destroying the incoming crescent. Suddenly, Zhao Fu's body blurred as he disappeared and reappeared above Shama in an instant. The Sin Dragon sword gave off a large amount of sword light as he slashed downwards, sending out a black sword light that seemed as if it wanted to split apart everything. Shama's pupils constricted as he raised his saber with both hands and blocked. Bang! A muffled explosion sounded out as the sword and saber clashed, causing sparks to fly everywhere. Sarah's body was sent flying back 10 or so meters before he stopped. His expression was serious as he looked at Zhao Fu, and a trace of blood leaked out of his lips. With your current strength, it's impossible for you to defeat me. Now submit to me. Zhao Fu's voice was domineering and dignified, carrying with it a terrifying demonic sound that could shake one's soul. Shama's expression became savage, and the Azure City Lord seal within his body continuously trembled. Bang! A loud explosion rang out as the cyan flames exploded. However, Sarah's figure disappeared. In the next second, she appeared before Zhao Fu and slashed at Zhao Fu. Clang! The sound of metal clashing could be heard as Zhao Fu raised his sword to block the incoming blade. However, at that moment, Sarah's leg kicked out, striking Zhao Fu's waist and forcing Zhao Fu to retreat by 7 or 8 meters. Prince Qin is just SOSO. Sarah gave a loud laugh. Zhao Fu's expression became cold as he raised the Sin Dragon sword and pointed it at Sarah. Countless traces of black water vapor quickly gathered towards Zhao Fu. Swish! The water vapor instantly formed a 100-meter-long water sword that stabbed towards Sarah in the time it took for a spark to fly off of Flint. Sarah barely dodged to the side, and the clothes on his shoulder were slashed open. At that moment, Zhao Fu gripped the 100-meter-long water sword and slashed horizontally towards Sarah. Sarah raised his saber and blocked the water sword, but he was still forced back by the massive force. Zhao Fu once again swung the 100-meter-long water sword, sending out a massive sword wind that seemed to cover the heavens and earth as it ferociously smashed toward Shama. Sarah coldly harumphed and gripped his saber with both hands. His muscles bulged, and his veins could clearly be seen. Traces of azure crystalline aura rose up from Sarah's body, forming a massive and ferocious-looking bird behind him. Scurry! As the massive sword wind rushed over, the ferocious-looking bird spread its wings and gave off an ear-piercing cry. Corporeal sound waves spread out and dissipated the sword wind. Sarah's saber shined with azure light as the ferocious-looking bird flapped its wings and shot out like an arrow, giving off a ferocious aura as it shot toward Zhao Fu. Seeing this, Zhao Fu raised the 100-meter-long water sword and vigorously slashed out, destroying the ferocious bird and causing it to dissipate into azure aura. However, the 100-meter-long water sword also turned into countless traces of water vapor and disappeared. However, Sarah suddenly appeared behind Zhao Fu and raised his saber as he slashed at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu had long since expected this, and he slashed out with his sword, sending out a sharp sword arc. Sarah's expression fell, and she immediately retreated. She circulated her power and formed an azure energy barrier around her body. Swish! The sword arc flashed, and the green energy barrier was broken apart. A horizontal wound appeared on Shama's chest, and blood flowed out, dyeing his clothes red. Luckily, most of the power had been blocked by the energy barrier, so Shama's injuries were not very serious. Roar! A massive dragon's roar sounded out, shaking the surroundings. Zhao Fu raised his sword, and a massive sword aura spread out. A water dragon spiraled in the sky, giving off an extremely terrifying aura, and the clouds in the surroundings were all scattered. At that moment, Zhao Fu's blood-red eyes looked at Sarah, and the icy killing intent caused Sarah's heart to feel a chill. Sarah was greatly startled and hurriedly used all of her strength to block with her saber in front of her to defend. Zhao Fu raised his sword and slashed down toward Sarah. The water dragon spiraling in the sky gave off immense power as it swooped down and slammed into Sarah like a bolt of lightning. Boom! In that moment, the water dragon smashed Sarah into the ground, resulting in a massive explosion. The ground cracked, and a 100-meter-wide crater appeared. Dust filled the air, making it impossible to see what was going on. The massive battle between the two of them caused the two armies below to feel quite shocked. They had never thought that both of them would have such terrifying power. However, seeing that Sarah had been smashed into the ground, Qin's legatee evidently had the upper hand, and the Chinese side's morale immediately became stronger. On the other hand, the Indian side looked at their Lord Sarah, who seemed to have lost, and their morale weakened. Zhao Fu stood in the air and looked at the center of the crater. He understood that things would not end so easily, as from the beginning, Sarah had only used his City Lord Seal's power. After the dust settled, Sarah coughed up a mouthful of blood and stood up. He looked at Zhao Fu in the sky and arrogantly laughed as he said, "Legatee Qin, I admit that you're stronger than me. However, this is only limited to the City Lord Seal's power. Victory belongs to me because you can't use your nation armament or clan armament, right? Today, I'll trample on your name, Qin." Zhao Fu did not reply to Sarah's words, and he charged down from the sky towards Sarah. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out in the surrounding thousands of kilometers as a silver pillar of light rushed into the sky. A shocking power exploded out like a wild gale, and the ground started to crumble as trees, boulders, and some people were blown into the sky. The clouds in the sky started to swirl as countless clouds madly gathered, forming a massive vortex with the silver pillar at the center. From a distance, this place seemed to be covered by a layer of haze, and an oppressive aura covered the entire region, causing countless creatures to flee in all directions. Chapter 613. Shama had finally used the full power of his nation armament. It seemed that Shama had made up his mind to kill Great Qin's legatee, trample on Great Qin's name, and replace China at the peak. Shama had made up his mind to kill Great Qin's legatee and trample on its name. Zhao Fu felt quite shocked as he looked at the stone pillar descending from the sky. This was called the Pillar of Ashoka, and it was even more powerful than ordinary nation armaments, as expected from a Maurya dynasty's nation armament. Just then, Zhao Fu had rushed toward Shama, but he had been forced back by that massive aura. Shama coldly laughed and pointed at Zhao Fu, and a silver ray of light shot out from his finger. In an instant, it sent Zhao Fu flying, and the terrifying power slammed Zhao Fu's body into a mountain hundreds of meters away. Countless cracks appeared on the mountain, and Zhao Fu's entire body seemed to be embedded into a stone wall as he lightly coughed up a mouthful of blood. This nation armament's power was quite terrifying. Right now, Zhao Fu could not use his nation armament because Qin's fate and origin Qi had only just recovered, and if he used it again, it would harm his foundation. Chapter 614. The countless people in the other regions could sense how terrifying and desperate the main region was. Just this aura alone caused them to feel incredibly shocked, and they felt that they would not be able to deal with it. It was likely that only Qin's legatee would be able to face such terrifying power head-on. Luya's expression was quite serious towards this terrifying power, and he felt a trace of worry. He did not know if Qin's legatee would be able to defend against it. If he was unable to defend, they would lose this battle. Even though they had been rivals with Qin's legatee in the past, Qin was now on China's side. If he lost, it would be disadvantageous to all of China. Back at the battlefield, the heavens and earth were dim, and yin and yang were reversed. Everything was silent, and there was not even the sound of wind. There was only a five-colored pillar of light that gave off a boundless, ocean-like aura. Scree! A massive cry sounded out from the depths of the hole, seeming to be able to tear apart the nine heavens. It was incredibly terrifying, and a peacock giving off five-colored divine light flew out from the hole. The five-colored divine light covered the entire ground, and a massive aura spread out, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. This peacock was thousands of meters long, and its body seemed to be made of glass. It was incredibly beautiful, and Shama was covered with blood on the peacock's body. He gave off an eerie killing intent as he looked at Zhao Fu. Shama had never thought that he would be forced by Zhao Fu to use India's clan armament, the peacock god statue. Shama did not have any other thoughts, and his heart was filled with flames of fury. He simply wanted to kill Zhao Fu. Looking at Zhao Fu, Shama once again attacked. The five-colored peacock flapped its wings, and a five-colored aura flooded towards Zhao Fu like a massive ocean. This five-colored sea occupied the entire sky. It looked beautiful, but it was extremely terrifying. Everything it touched would be turned into nothingness. Even space itself was constantly collapsing. When it landed on the ground or the trees, these things would immediately disappear as if they were forcefully erased by something. It was extremely horrifying. The five-colored ocean poured down and quickly covered the ground. Everything disappeared, and some people were inundated. Before they could even cry out, they died. At the same time, Zhao Fu was also inundated by the five-colored sea. Such a massive and terrifying attack was not something that ordinary people could deal with, and it was enough to wipe out an army of 1,000. Seeing that Zhao Fu was submerged in the five-colored sea without any reaction, countless people in Huaxia felt their hearts sink. Is Crown Prince Qin dead? Did Huaxia lose again? Ayo, 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 ayo. 9 loud, golden dragons roared, shaking the heavens and the earth. Golden light radiated in all directions, dyeing half of the sky gold. Zhao Fu stood in the middle of the rainbow sea. 9 golden dragons surrounded Zhao Fu, and the rainbow sea couldn't approach him at all. Zhao Fu was like an emperor of the human world. Even though Zhao Fu could not use his nation armament, he could use his clan armament. After all, the clan armament represented China and could use all of China's fate. Of course, this required the support of the majority of the people, and this power had to be used to defend against foreign invasions, not for internal strife. Wu, Crown Prince Qin, please bless me with the luck of the Huaxia people. Banish foreign invasions. As Zhao Fu spoke, all of China trembled. Everyone received a system announcement and sensed something, and they immediately agreed to support him. Countless traces of fate rose up from various regions in China and madly gathered. Traces of fate formed an ocean and started to flow into Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu's body automatically rose into the sky, and his body gave off a brilliant golden light, making him look like a golden sun. His aura seemed to be able to destroy the heavens and earth. Seeing this, Shama understood that Zhao Fu had long since been prepared, but he could also gather all of India's fate. Following this, India's fate madly gathered, forming an ocean that flowed into Shama's body. The 5-color divine light that the 5-colored peacock gave off became even more intense. The terrifying auras of the two of them covered the entire Midland continent, and all kingdoms and races felt this terrifying power, causing their bodies to instinctively tremble. As such, everyone held their breaths. They had been paying close attention to this battle, as it was not just a battle between 2 kingdoms, but also a battle between 2 races. Now, both sides were going all out, gathering their fate for the final battle. Back on the battlefield, Zhao Fu and Shama each occupied one side of the sky, and it was as if they were 2 different worlds. One was covered by 5-color divine light, while the other was covered by golden light. Clang, clang, clang. Zhao Fu was the first to act. A sword mark flashed on the back of his hand, and 5 swords appeared around him. The Sky Demon Sword, Slaughtering Ghost Sword, Royal Wood Sword, Sin Dragon Sword, and Seraph Sword. Under Zhao Fu's control, the 5 swords gave off a 1,000-meter-long sword light, causing the entire world to be filled with boundless sword chi. Everything in the surroundings was slashed apart by the sword chi, and sword gashes could be seen everywhere, turning it into a world of swords. Boom! Zhao Fu led the boundless sword chi towards Shama, and the 5 swords followed by his side, shooting towards Shama. The massive sword chi caused the air to explode and the surrounding regions to tremble. Shama rode on his massive 5-colored peacock and did not show any weakness as he rushed over. He also brought with him a terrifying 5-colored ocean, giving off a shocking aura. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as the 5-colored ocean and the boundless sword chi collided, making it seem as if 2 worlds had collided. The sword chi was incredibly sharp and could cut through anything, while the 5-colored aura could turn everything into nothingness. The 2 of them collided intensely, and it was either the sword chi that destroyed the 5-colored aura or the 5-colored sword chi that turned the sword chi into nothingness. Zhao Fu waved his finger, and the 5 swords around him gave off large amounts of sword light that shot towards Shama and started to attack. The swords turned into rays of light that continuously shot towards the 5-colored peacock from different directions, leaving behind sword gashes in the air. Shama controlled the 5-colored peacock to give off a 5-color divine light and defend against the sharp flying swords. He mainly used his claws and wings to continuously block or slap the flying swords away. The shockwaves from this were massive, causing massive explosions to sound out in the sky. Seeing that the 5-colored peacock was not heavily injured and was only lightly injured, Zhao Fu's pupils constricted as a cold intent appeared in his eyes. Roar! 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 Dragons' roars sounded out as the 9 golden dragons around Zhao Fu roared as they rushed towards the 5-colored peacock. After leaving Zhao Fu's side, the golden dragons turned into 1,000-meter-long golden dragons that madly attacked the five-colored peacock. Some of the golden dragons used their bodies to slam into the five-colored peacock, sending it flying, while others used their bites to take advantage of the opportunity to bite the five-colored peacock. These bites were incredibly powerful, while some of the golden dragons used their coiling methods to bind the five-colored peacock. Adding on the five swords continuously attacking, the five-colored peacock fell into a disadvantageous situation and became covered with wounds. Shama's expression was quite unsightly as he shouted, "Emperor, divine body! Scree!" The five-colored peacock gave a cry and spread its wings, exploding out with an intense five-color divine light that forced the golden dragon flying swords back. Following this, the massive five-colored peacock turned into a five-colored wave and entered Shama's body. Boom! A world-destroying power exploded out, causing the surrounding 10,000 meters of space to collapse and turn into nothingness. The surroundings became dark as if there was a black hole that devoured everything. At that moment, a five-color divine light shot out from the black hole as a terrifying figure appeared at the center of the black hole. This figure had a dignified and holy expression and was dressed in five-colored feather clothes. There was a five-colored eye on his forehead and a five-colored light behind his back. He held a 2-meter-long stone staff and looked no different from a god. Zhao Fu looked at Shama, who had greatly changed, and felt quite shocked. Shama's power was now many times greater than before, and he had even used the pillars of Ashoka. Shama coldly looked at Zhao Fu and swung his stone staff, causing a five-colored light to shoot out and blast the golden dragon and flying swords away. Zhao Fu also looked at Shama and grabbed at the air, causing the five swords to fuse into a single sword. The 9 golden dragons also fused into the sword, forming a golden dragon sword. It looked quite similar to the Sin Dragon sword, but it was completely golden and covered with dragon scales. This sword gave off a world-destroying aura, and a trace of sword chi seemed to be able to slash apart the world. It was like a peerless, divine sword. Zhao Fu gripped the sword, and his aura rose, becoming not any weaker than Shama's. The battle had only just begun. Shama attacked first, turning into a ray of light and rushing in front of Zhao Fu. He raised his stone staff and slammed it toward Zhao Fu, while Zhao Fu raised his sword and counterattacked. Boom, boom, boom. Massive explosions sounded out in the sky, and the aura of destruction caused countless people to feel incredibly shocked. This was a battle that exceeded the limits of humans, and it was like a battle between gods. In terms of battle, Zhao Fu still had the advantage. After all, China's clan armament was more powerful than India's clan armament, and in terms of fate, China had a massive advantage. As such, as the battle went on, Shama gradually fell into a disadvantage. Shama understood this and decided not to continue like this. He focused all of his power on the five-colored eye on his forehead. The eye continuously spun in its sockets, giving off a five-colored light. Even though it was quite beautiful, it gave off an aura of destruction, nothingness, and destruction. It flooded out like a flood and swept through the western side of the Midland continent, causing everyone to feel a chill as if they were in an icy cavern. That eye was the forbidden eye. Zhao Fu also sensed immense danger, and his hair stood on end as he felt a chill in his heart. At that moment, the golden dragon's voice became somewhat serious as it said, "Zhao Fu, leave your body to me and let me control it." Zhao Fu thought about it and agreed. Following this, the golden dragon's consciousness entered Zhao Fu's mind, and Zhao Fu's eyes became 4 pupils, one blood red and one black. Even though there were no changes to his power, his aura became quite different. Shama started to attack and yelled, "All things to nothingness." The entire world trembled as if it was in fear. The five-colored eye stared at Zhao Fu and gave off a large amount of five-colored light. Following this, everything in the heavens and earth turned into nothingness. Anything in this I would be easily erased, and even godly spirits would not be able to resist at all. Heaven and earth soared. At that moment, Zhao Fu, or rather, the golden dragon, roared as he slashed out with his sword. However, it was as if nothing had happened, as if an ordinary person had slashed out with their sword. Zhao Fu felt quite startled and understood what was going on. But then, the world soundlessly seemed to be split in two. Not only the sky, but the earth as well. Everything was split in two. The sky was a very long and straight fissure, and the ground was also a very deep fissure. It was impossible to tell how long it was, but it was also very straight. Shama looked quite shocked as his body had been split in half from his head down. Chapter 615. What kind of attack is this? Zhao Fu asked in shock. The golden dragon calmly replied, It's just an origin energy attack. Right now, you're too weak and can't control it at all. If it wasn't for all of China's fate supporting you, I wouldn't have been able to use it either. Zhao Fu understood that his level was quite low. Clang, clang, clang. The golden dragon controlled Zhao Fu's body and used the king's crown, causing countless chains to fly out and pierce through Shama's corpse. 3 items were bound up by the chains and pulled out. The 3 items were a glass peacock, a 30-centimeter long stone staff, and an azure city lord seal. These 3 items gave off different terrifying powers and continuously struggled, wanting to break free from the chains. However, either the golden dragon or Zhao Fu used China's fate to forcefully suppress them, and the 3 items were put away by Zhao Fu. If a legatee died before the city was constructed, it would not be a big loss. They would be like ordinary people, and their cultivation would be reset to 0. However, the legatee's status would not change, as they would not truly die. As such, the legatee would only lose a bit of fate. However, after the city was constructed, things would be different. After condensing a city lord seal, if the legatee died, the city lord seal would remain in their body and be obtained by someone else. When that happened, the city would be in great danger, as it would fall into someone else's hands. This was why the other 2 dynasty legatees did not dare to meet with Zhao Fu. However, it was not as if there was no way around this. As a legatee, they had a certain amount of power, such as destroying a city and turning it back into a town before condensing a city lord seal again. This way, the city lord seal in Zhao Fu's hands would become ineffective. As for the nation armament and clan armament, the golden dragon had grasped a secret technique that allowed it to kill a legatee and use their corpses as bait to forcefully take the 2 nation armaments that were still in the city. Now that Shama had died, almost all of the Indian people's faith had collapsed. Now that they saw Zhao Fu's godlike power that could destroy the heavens and the earth, they were filled with terror and retreated. The Chinese side naturally chased after them. With Shama's death, the other battlefields also lost their ability to fight. Liu Yi stood in the air, his pupils constricting, feeling extremely shocked in his heart. That was because the sword crack had already extended all the way here. It had to be known that this place was 2 regions away from the main battlefields. At that time, there was no sound. It was like a gentle breeze had blown past. Heaven and earth had been split in 2, and countless people had been transformed into a mist of blood. This sort of power was simply too terrifying, and Imperial Prince Qin's methods were truly terrifying. Now that all of the terrifying ripples had disappeared, the Huaxia side could clearly sense a massive amount of fate flowing into Huaxia. After all, this was a battle between 2 great kingdoms and 2 great races, and they had mobilized all of their fate. Of course, the loser would suffer a great loss of vitality, and a large amount of luck would be absorbed by China. Through this, countless people in Huaxia had learned that Huaxia, as well as Qin the Crown Prince, had won this destructive war. All hail China! Long live China! China is the strongest! Countless people excitedly yelled, filled with excitement. From the commoners to the leaders of the large factions, all of them were overjoyed at this victory. After all, India was China's greatest enemy and competitor. Now that they had officially defeated it, everyone was overjoyed. India's defeat was a great blow to their vitality, and they would not dare to invade so openly in the future. Now, China did not have to worry too much about India's threat. The rest of the world felt quite disappointed because China was simply too powerful. They had hoped that India would win, as that way, they would be able to suppress China, making it much easier for them to face China in the future. The smaller countries that had supported India all became mute and did not make a single sound. However, no one had expected something else to explode like a massive bomb. That was 3 million or so people from India had died. This did not mean that they had died in the heaven-awakened world, but in the real world. In the real world, if dozens of people died, it would shake the entire country. However, 3 million or so people had died, and the entire world would be shaken. How could so many people have died? What the hell happened? Countless people felt terror within their hearts. Thinking about how many people had died, their bodies trembled. After all, this was in the real world. It was not just the various large countries that felt shocked and afraid. The Chinese side was also incredibly shocked and even panicked. They had never thought that such a thing would happen. Countless people could not understand why such a thing had happened. Suddenly, someone thought of something. Qin had participated in this battle, and he had said that China would definitely win. Could it be that Qin had obtained something that could kill players? This guess was quickly confirmed. It was indeed done by Qin. Immediately, the entire world gasped. They had never thought that Qin would have such a method. It was simply too terrifying, and no one dared to oppose Qin. Now that they had died, they would truly die. Moreover, that person did not fear death. This undoubtedly increased the danger that Qin was in by more than 10 times. Those who had opposed Qin still felt a lingering fear. If Qin had used such a method, they would all have died. By now, all of the voices insulting and opposing Qin had disappeared, and no one dared to make a single sound. This was indeed done by Qin, and he had used reality-harming talismans. Before, Zhao Fu had taken out 1 million elites from the army and given each of them a talisman. Of course, before, Zhao Fu had not told them what the talismans were used for. Without the reality-harming talismans, the Indian army would not have retreated. It was because so many people had died that they had been terrified and had retreated without hesitation. The Chinese side flooded forwards, chasing after the Indian players. Because they were still in Chinese territory, the Indian players were still invaders, and killing them would give 4 times the rewards. Zhao Fu looked at the Azure City Lord seal in his hand and did not hesitate at all. From the information he had obtained, Zhao Fu had found out that the Maurya dynasty was near the border of India. As the #1 dynasty in India, his location had long since been exposed. Zhao Fu did not care about anything else and turned into a ray of light as he flew in that direction. Zhao Fu naturally felt quite excited and nervous because Zhao Fu was about to conquer an entire dynasty. Of course, he was also quite worried. Even though he would not be able to log in for 10 days after dying, perhaps there would be a way to re-enter the heaven-awakened world early. Chapter 6:16. Feeling quite nervous, Zhao Fu continuously increased his speed and flew extremely quickly. The scenery around him flashed by, and he continuously teleported through teleportation channels. In the end, Zhao Fu found the Maurya dynasty. The Maurya dynasty was currently under martial law, and soldiers held weapons as they guarded their surroundings in case any enemies appeared. There were also soldiers patrolling everywhere to prevent anyone from sneaking in. They had received news that Shama had died and the City Lord seal had fallen into someone else's hands, so they had to defend the Maurya city and wait for Shama to re-enter the heaven-awakened world. After a lord died in the heaven-awakened world, they would not respawn and would respawn within their territory. After Shama died and returned to the real world, he did not know that his nation armament and clan armament had been taken by the Golden Dragon. Now, he knew that the City Lord seal had fallen into someone else's hands, so he was in a hurry to come up. He had obtained an item that could reduce the death penalty to 10 hours. There were still a few minutes before he could re-enter the heaven-awakened world. If it was an ordinary person, Shama would not be worried at all. After all, even if the City Lord seal fell into someone else's hands, the nation armament and clan armament would automatically protect the city. However, The person he was facing was Qin's legatee, so Shama felt quite worried and had a bad feeling. By now, Zhao Fu had already snuck into the Moria city. Because Zhao Fu not only had a powerful cultivation, but he was also an assassin and could become invisible. He was able to hide his aura and easily sneak in without anyone noticing. Zhao Fu went straight to the city hall, which was currently protected by a green energy barrier. Many people were still attacking it. These people were, of course, the Maurya dynasty's soldiers. If they could destroy the energy barrier, anyone would be able to conquer the city. In order to be safe, the historical figure decided to destroy the energy barrier because he found that the nation armament and clan armament had disappeared. It was a pity that this was a dynasty-level energy barrier, and after countless people attacked for nearly 10 hours, they had only been able to cause some cracks to appear on the energy barrier. Zhao Fu continued to silently sneak in. Because he had the City Lord seal, the energy barrier was useless against Zhao Fu and did not stop Zhao Fu at all. By now, Shama had re-entered the Heaven Awakened world. Seeing that there were no signs of anyone intruding, he felt a bit more at ease. However, Zhao Fu had already placed his hand on the city heart, choosing to migrate and occupy it. Roar! A ray of green light shot into the sky, dyeing the entire sky green. Following this, a resounding dragon's roar sounded out, turning into a corporeal sound wave that sounded throughout India. It was filled with pain, unwillingness, and grief. The Indian Empire, which had lost the war, looked quite dispirited. However, when they heard this dragon's roar, their expressions all changed. A dynasty's legatee had been destroyed. In the sky, a divine dragon that was hundreds of meters long and gave off an azure light, giving off a powerful aura, let out a sorrowful cry. It struggled a few times in the air before its massive body slowly disintegrated into motes of light and dissipated. Everyone in Peacock City stared at the sky in shock, unable to believe that this was real. Shama's eyes widened as he charged towards the City Lord's hall. Notification: the Peacock dynasty perished, and the luck it represented was all devoured by Qin, and Qin obtained a lot of luck. System announcement: Qin has destroyed the Peacock dynasty and obtained all of the Peacock dynasty's legacy. System announcement: Qin's city heart has evolved, and a system announcement has been completed. Qin Jun has obtained 1/5 of the Peacock dynasty's stats. System announcement: Nation armament 12 metal colossi has evolved and leveled up into a level 6 nation armament. System announcement: Clan armament Imperial Ruler's seal has evolved and leveled up into a level 5 clan armament. System announcement: You have conquered a large city with a dynasty legacy and obtained 5,000 achievement points. System announcement: You have relocated a large city and obtained 620,000 EXP. Hearing the system announcements in his mind, Zhao Fu couldn't help but loudly laugh before rushing into the sky. He ignored the countless people's furious, hateful, and pleading gazes and turned into a ray of black light as he shot over the horizon. Shama collapsed to the ground, his eyes hollow as tears continuously flowed out. The Peacock dynasty was finished just like that, and he had lost the most important thing in his life. The Peacock city's 3 million or so people fell in a deep grief, and many people started to loudly cry. Today was the end of a dynasty. Zhao Fu held the city creation stone and quickly returned, smiling on the way. He had actually destroyed a dynasty, and the fate he had obtained caused Great Qin's fate to recover 2/3 of what it had been before. Moreover, his clan armament and nation armament had once again leveled up. The requirement to level up a city heart was to destroy a dynasty, which was equivalent to 5 nation legacies. His gains this time were simply too monstrous. Not only had he obtained a nation armament and clan armament, but he had also destroyed the Peacock dynasty. News of this quickly spread to the real world, and some Chinese people were incredibly happy. Not only had they destroyed a dynasty, but they had also suppressed a nation armament and clan armament by Qin. Some people sighed, as Qin's power was going to grow. However, they had never thought that Qin would be able to refine other people's nation armaments and clan armaments. They thought that they had been suppressed by Qin because they were not the legatees of a dynasty and could not use nation armaments and clan armaments. On India's side, countless people were incredibly furious. Not only had so many people died, but their dynasty had also been destroyed and their clan armament had been suppressed. India sent an army to China's border in the real world, demanding an explanation. The Chinese side did not reply because they could not do anything to Qin. Moreover, Qin had destroyed many of the governmental factions in the past, and in terms of military strength, China could easily crush India, so they did not fear them. India did not have much confidence, so they did not dare to directly attack and only demanded an explanation. India had wanted to work with America and the other smaller countries to put pressure on China. However, none of the smaller countries dared to say anything. America could not even protect itself and did not have any legacies in the Heaven Awakened world. As such, they could only rely on stealing indigenous legacies to focus on developing, and they did not have time to care about such things. Now, apart from having more people, they did not have to worry about India being a threat. China was now the most powerful country in the Midland continent, and no one was a match for it. The situation in China was now set. After Zhao Fu returned to China's border region, the other 3 dynasty legatees were incredibly wary of Zhao Fu. Even Liu Yi, who had been quite confident, was persuaded to return to his own region. Chapter 617. Zhao Fu did not mind them. He had achieved his goal. Following this, Zhao Fu gave out a quest to recruit Indian indigenous residents for a high price of 1 gold coin per person. This made countless people feel incredibly tempted, as 1 gold coin was equivalent to 10,000 copper coins. If they conquered a village, they would be able to kill at least a few hundred people, and they would be able to obtain at least a few hundred gold coins. In the real world, that would be equivalent to winning the lottery. Many people excitedly rushed into India's territory and started to search for Indian indigenous residents. India did not have much strength to resist, and because they were afraid of dying, they continuously retreated. In just a few days, the Chinese side had conquered 10 or so Indian regions. Zhao Fu stayed here for a few days, and people continuously sent Indian indigenous residents over. Zhao Fu had already announced that he would only take in 1 million Indian indigenous residents. Seeing how wealthy Qin Zhao was, the players all enthusiastically participated and continuously plundered Indian indigenous residents to send to Zhao Fu. The Chinese players did not have good feelings towards these Indian indigenous residents, and they would normally kill them and take their resources. Now that Zhao Fu was buying them, he had saved them, and the players gained a massive income. The Otherworld Gate continuously teleported people every day and night, and after Zhao Fu stayed here for a few days, he returned to Qin Kingdom. After hearing that Qin Kingdom's legatee had left, the Indian indigenous residents started to resist. By now, the Indian indigenous resident Zhao Fu had bought 100,000 indigenous residents and brought them back to Qin Kingdom. He continued to buy more and teleport them back. Now that he could refine a nation armament, Zhao Fu had a trace of a smile on his face. Before, Zhao Fu had rebuilt the Moria city. It had originally been a large city, but after being relocated, it had become a basic city, which was quite a pity. Zhao Fu gave the position of city lord to Bai Shihan for now. The Moria city was legendary grade, and its stats were naturally quite good. However, since it was the Indian dynasty, Zhao Fu felt that giving it to an Indian person would be more useful. However, Zhao Fu did not have any Indian people that he could use, so he temporarily gave them to Bai Shihan. If there were any suitable Indian people, he would give them to Zhao Fu. Only Indian people could fully unleash Moria City's power. Following this, Zhao Fu returned to the conference hall. At that moment, there were 9 Indian women waiting for him. They were undoubtedly very beautiful, and they also had strong phoenix chi. This was a special task given by Zhao Fu to Liu Mei and the others, which was to capture various women of the Peacock Imperial Court. A lot of the information obtained from Flower Moon was about them. The first was around 40 years old and had a good face and a well-developed figure. Even though she was quite old, she had a unique charm and gave off a mature aura. She was called Clement, and she was Sarah's mother. The second one was also quite beautiful. She had a graceful figure and gave off a noble aura. She was called Biar, and she was one of Sarah's 3 aunts. The third person gave off an elegant aura. Her facial features were exquisite, and she had a slim figure. She was called Joey, and she was Sarah's aunt. The fourth was a languid-looking middle-aged woman with a good figure and enchanting looks. She was called Jenny, and she was Sarah's aunt. The fifth was Sarah's aunt, and she was a mature, middle-aged woman called Team. The sixth was Sarah's aunt. She had small facial features and a slim figure, and she gave off a weak aura. She was called Ruth. The seventh was Sarah's sister-in-law. She was quite good-looking and had a voluptuous figure, and she gave off a trace of sexiness. She was a widow, and Sarah's big brother had died long ago. The eighth had delicate facial features and a slim figure, and she looked quite lively and cheerful. She was Sarah's little sister, and she was called Daphne. The ninth was a very beautiful woman with a graceful figure, but she gave off a serious aura. She was Sarah's fiancée, and she was also from a large family. She was called Angela. Looking at these 9 women, Zhao Fu did not say much and directly made them concubines. Large amounts of phoenix chi flowed out of their bodies and entered the Emperor Phoenix statue, causing the Emperor Phoenix's power to once again become stronger. They had never expected Zhao Fu to suddenly make them concubines, and they all had complicated expressions on their faces. Some looked quite unsightly, while others looked quite worried. They were the primers for refining the Maurya dynasty's nation armament. Because Zhao Fu was going to refine the Maurya dynasty's nation armament, he smiled and asked the Golden Dragon, "What are the steps to refining a nation armament?" Following this, Zhao Fu followed the Golden Dragon's instructions and started to make preparations. He first prepared a very large room that was 300 meters wide, and there were 10 3-meter-tall stone pillars that formed a circle. There were also countless chains on the stone pillars, and there were 2 items bound to these chains. These 2 items were naturally the nation armament and clan armament. They were currently being suppressed by Zhao Fu's magic formations, but they floated in the air and continuously struggled. Between the 10 stone pillars, there was a 1-meter-tall platform. There was a spirit formation on it, with a dragon carved on one side and a phoenix carved on the other. There was also a layer of warm jade on the surface of the platform. Walking on it barefoot, it was not cold but rather warm. And then, Zhao Fu brought the 9 women to the room and asked the Golden Dragon. The Golden Dragon quickly replied, "Take them, or do some other things." Zhao Fu felt quite speechless and asked what they were doing before saying to the 9 women, "Your Maurya dynasty has been destroyed. Not only has your nation armament been destroyed, but even your clan armament has been suppressed by me. Your Indian people have no hope of winning at all. As long as you are willing to become my concubines and stay in Qin, not only will I not destroy your families, but I will also give your families nobility and protect them." Hearing this, the 9 women could only sigh. Right now, they did not have any strength to resist. Not only did they have to think about themselves, but they also had to think about their families. If they could be protected by Qin, their families would definitely be safe. Zhao Fu brought them to the stage, and the first thing he saw was Shama's mother, who was also looking at him flirtatiously. Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and brought her into his embrace, and Shama's mother lightly hugged Zhao Fu's waist as she flirtatiously smiled and said, "Your Majesty, can you not kill Shama in the future?" Hearing this, Zhao Fu lightly nodded, and Shama's mother's smile became even brighter as she kissed Zhao Fu. She stuck her tongue into Zhao Fu's mouth, and her tongue skillfully intertwined with Zhao Fu's. The 2 of them tightly hugged each other, and their bodies' temperature continuously rose as they continued to fondle each other. The other women all looked slightly embarrassed. They all knew each other and were quite familiar with each other. Seeing Shama's mother, who was their senior, passionately kissing another man, this scene was simply too taboo. Shama's little sister looked quite worried, and Shama's fiancé was expressionless. The other women all had flirtatious looks on their faces. They were all quite experienced. As Zhao Fu kissed her, he took off Shama's mother's clothes, revealing her entire body. He then continuously fondled and kneaded her body, causing Shama's mother's body to tremble, and Zhao Fu's hands became wet. Shama's mother's body became powerless, and Zhao Fu put her on the ground. Black Dragon Qi continuously rose up from Shama's mother's body, while Golden Phoenix Qi continuously rose up from Shama's mother's body. The two auras fused together, turning into a black and gold aura that entered the nation armament. The nation armament's resistance was no longer as strong. Chapter 618. Zhao Fu once again pulled one of Shama's aunts into his embrace and kissed her lips before taking off her clothes. She passionately responded to Zhao Fu, and the two of them continuously tangled together. Following this, Zhao Fu continued to stretch out his hands towards the other women. An erotic aura filled the air as 7 naked women powerlessly lay on the ground. Their faces were red, and they looked incredibly alluring. The one who reacted the most was Shama's sister-in-law. Not only was her body sensitive, but her response was also incredibly intense. She even uncontrollably took off Zhao Fu's clothes, looking incredibly thirsty and desperate. She even wanted Zhao Fu to put his fingers inside, and only after 5 or 6 times did she powerlessly collapse to the ground. Luckily, it was quite easy to deal with her, and Zhao Fu stretched out his hand towards Shama's little sister and lightly kissed her. Her body was quite stiff, and perhaps it was because she was nervous, but Zhao Fu could clearly feel her heart beating quite quickly. As Zhao Fu continuously teased her, Shama's little sister's frown gradually relaxed, and her body became less stiff. She became more relaxed and clumsily responded to Zhao Fu. A moan sounded out as more water appeared on Zhao Fu's hand. Zhao Fu lightly placed her on the ground and brought Shama's fiancée into his embrace. This serious-looking woman lightly cooperated with Zhao Fu. She had been the woman with the most potential in India, but now she was being kissed and caressed by another man. However, she did not care much, as she was a tool for marriage alliances. As such, she cooperated with Zhao Fu and allowed Zhao Fu to take advantage of her. Shama's fiancée's body trembled, and she pushed Zhao Fu away as she said coldly, "You've achieved your goal." Zhao Fu felt quite startled before smiling. This woman knew what he was doing. He looked up at the pillar of Ashoka, which was currently floating in the air and bound by countless chains. However, it did not struggle, and his plan was quite successful. However, the glass peacock's resistance was still quite intense, but it had also absorbed some of the black gold aura, so its resistance was not as strong as before. The clan armament represented a clan, so it required different women to tame it. The Shama family's women also belonged to India, so they would be effective on both the nation armament and the clan armament. Seeing how intensely the clan armament was resisting, Zhao Fu decided that he would have to capture many Indian women. He would deal with this later, and right now, he had to refine the pillar of Ashoka. Zhao Fu removed the chains and grabbed at the air, pulling the pillar of Ashoka into his hand. This nation armament did not resist in Zhao Fu's hand. After looking at the nation armament, Zhao Fu gave a pleased smile and took it with him as he opened the door and had the female attendants take care of the women in the room. Many people in the real world knew that Qin had captured many women from the Shama family, and India was incredibly afraid. They were incredibly furious that Zhao Fu had not only destroyed their dynasty, but had also captured their entire family's women. In their hearts, Qin was the incarnation of a demon. In actuality, Zhao Fu had not captured all of the women from the Shama family. After all, a large family would not have so few women, and Zhao Fu had only captured some of the women that he could. The Chinese side treated this matter differently. It was mainly because Qin had stopped India's invasion and had suppressed their clan armament. As such, they did not curse Zhao Fu for being lewd and only said that he was dissolute. However, even if people wanted to curse, they did not dare to. After all, with the reality-harming talismans, no one wanted to die. Holding the nation armament, Zhao Fu walked to the side, and a woman suddenly appeared in front of Zhao Fu. She bowed to Zhao Fu and smiled as she called out, "Your Majesty." Zhao Fu nodded and looked at this Lu Lingxian as he asked, "What is it?" Lu Lingxian lightly hugged Zhao Fu and rested her head on Zhao Fu's shoulder as she said shyly, "Your Majesty, I've missed you so much. You've already made me a concubine, so why haven't you taken care of me?" Zhao Fu inwardly laughed. He knew that he did not have that much charm. Back when he had first seen Lu Lingxian in northern Qi, Zhao Fu had understood that this woman was ambitious and scheming. However, ambition was not necessarily a bad thing, as it could make people work harder. Of course, the downside was that they could easily suffer backlash. At most, Lu Lingxian would become a part of Qin's political system and would not have much of an impact on it. Zhao Fu put his arm around Lu Lingxian's slim back and lightly smiled as he asked, "Is that so?" Lu Lingxian lightly nodded before blushing as she kissed Zhao Fu. Her tongue entered Zhao Fu's mouth, continuously teasing Zhao Fu, and Zhao Fu could not control himself and started to passionately kiss her. After a while, Lu Lingxian breathlessly leaned against Zhao Fu's shoulder and said, "Your Majesty, can you give me something to do? Can you give me something to do? It's boring for me to stay in the courtyard." Zhao Fu understood what she wanted, so he agreed to give her a position. Only then did Lu Lingxian reveal a true smile and passionately kiss Zhao Fu. She even started to take off her clothes, and Zhao Fu hurriedly stopped her. After all, they were on the road and many people would pass by. "Your Majesty, you're the ruler of Qin. What's there to worry about?" Lu Lingxian hugged Zhao Fu as she said coquettishly. Zhao Fu lightly laughed and patted her plump bottom as he said, "All right, you've already achieved your goal. It's time for you to leave." Hearing this, Lu Lingxian's face slightly paled, but she quickly recovered. She knew that as the Emperor of Qin, Zhao Fu would not be a muddle-headed person. "Your Majesty, I'll be loyal to you. Everything I have will be yours." Lu Lingxian hugged Zhao Fu as she said shyly. Zhao Fu nodded, and Lu Lingxian kissed Zhao Fu for a while before leaving. Seeing her leave, Zhao Fu found that he was becoming less and less resistant to beauties, especially women with Phoenix Qi. Zhao Fu did not know much about them. By now, Zhao Fu was preparing for the Great World Refinement. The Great World Refinement required 10 people, and they all had to have great fate and great power. Zhao Fu felt that by Qi and the other generals would be enough, and their power would be replenished by City Lord Seals. As such, he gathered them next to the Heaven and Earth Refining Formation. They were by Qi, Wang Jian, Wei Liao, Meng Kuo, Sima Qiu, by Shihan, Sun Hanxiang, Wei Qing, and Su Yoi. Adding on Zhao Fu, there were 10 of them. Because Sun Hanxiang, Wei Qing, and Su Yoi were generals, they did not have City Lord Seals yet, so Zhao Fu had to borrow them from someone else. At the same time, he gathered the 100,000 Indian indigenous residents, who now belonged to Qin subjects, to help Zhao Fu obtain the fate of his nation armament. Chapter 619. An explosion sounded out as countless crystals turned into dust. Zhao Fu and the other 9 people unleashed their City Lord Seals, and the 10 City Lord Seals floated above their heads, giving off different colored lights and terrifying might. This power flowed into the Heaven and Earth Refining Formation, causing it to give off a 10-colored light and start to spin as a massive aura spread out. Zhao Fu placed the Pillar of Ashoka at the center of the formation, and a wave of energy covered the Pillar of Ashoka, causing it to float in the air. Following this, Zhao Fu looked at the others and signaled for them to act together. The others understood and nodded. Following this, everyone exploded out with their fate, and massive amounts of fate flooded into the formation. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as a 10-colored pillar of light rushed into the clouds, causing the heavens and earth to change. Countless traces of heaven and earth fate seemed to be drawn over and madly gathered, causing wild gales to blow and sand and pebbles to fly. Countless traces of fate continuously gathered and compressed, and an extremely terrifying aura spread out from the sky. Everyone in the northern side of the Midland continent sensed this terrifying aura and felt a chill in their hearts. Their hair stood on end, and they did not know what was happening. Finally, the countless traces of fate continuously condensed and compressed, forming a 100-meter wide four-legged cauldron that gave off a 10-colored light. This cauldron gave off the might of the heavens and earth, and it seemed to be able to shake an entire world and make all creatures submit. Everyone continued to send countless traces of fate and power into the heaven and earth refining formation, and the 10-colored cauldron trembled as an incredibly powerful energy exploded out, scattering all of the clouds in the surrounding 1,000 kilometers. The pillar of Ashoka within the cauldron seemed to be covered by a formless flame, and it continuously changed. The Indian indigenous residents obeyed Li Si's orders and knelt on the ground, shouting that they were Qin's subjects. Traces of fate rose up from their bodies and continuously flowed into the 10-colored cauldron before entering the pillar of Ashoka. The pillar of Ashoka struggled for a moment before stopping, and the carvings on its surface disappeared. Traces of Qin's fate rose up from the ground and flooded towards the rainbow cauldron. The formless flame absorbed Qin's fate and instantly turned into black flames. Under the black flames, the pillars of Ashoka once again went through changes. The carvings on the stone pillars once again appeared. What was different was that there were not only carvings of Indian people, but also Qin people. Following this, the changes stopped. The multicolored cauldron dissipated into countless traces of fate, and a stone staff, giving off terrifying power, slowly descended from the air before hovering above the heaven and earth refining formation. Currently, the pillar of Ashoka not only gave off India's aura, but also Qin's aura of conquering. It now completely belonged to Qin and had become Qin's nation armament. Zhao Fu could now use its full power. Everyone withdrew their power, and Zhao Fu smiled. He looked at the pillar of Ashoka and found that he could change its name. After thinking about it, Zhao Fu decided to change its name. After all, Ashoka was the king of India, and now that this nation armament belonged to Qin, the name had to be changed. Zhao Fu decided to name it Nation Stabilizing Pillar. This name meant to suppress fate, and Zhao Fu held the Nation Stabilizing Pillar and looked at it carefully before placing it next to Qin's city heart. Just like the 12 metal colossi and imperial ruler's seal, it received the support of Qin's fate. This matter was concluded here, and Zhao Fu turned his attention to India's clan armament. After all, clan armaments were more powerful than 5 nation armaments, and there were only 4 in the human world. Clan armaments were much more difficult to nurture than nation armaments, and only the 4 great civilizations could nurture them. The 4 great civilizations were Babylon, India, Egypt, and China. Now that India's clan armament had been taken, if he could take the other 2, Qin's power would become even more terrifying. However, Zhao Fu decided to refine India's clan armament first. This required him to capture many women and use their fate to reduce the clan armament's resistance. Zhao Fu heard that India also had a beauty rankings, and Shama's fiancée was ranked 6th. If he could capture all of them, that would be enough. After leaving this matter to Qin's assassin, Zhao Fu turned his attention to other matters. By now, East Green had been completely cleared out, and Zhao Fu moved another system main city over and fused it with the region heart, successfully unifying East Green. Xianyang fused with another region, and its various powers became stronger. Zhao Fu renamed East Green to Green Province, making it Qin's 2nd province. By now, Qin's population was 6 million, and it had 2 million soldiers. It now had 19 great cities, 5 cities, 26 towns, and 2,279 villages. Qin's strength once again increased, and out of its 2 million soldiers, 6 million stage 1 soldiers and 50,000 stage 2 soldiers were added. Their next target was Little Valley. Little Valley had many canyons, making it difficult for an army to march through. 100 Bamboo was a sea of bamboo, and visibility was not good, so Zhao Fu casually chose one. Now that they had 2 million soldiers, they would be able to clear out much faster. Next, Great Qin did not have any large battles and was in a stable state of development. Zhao Fu once again became quite free, and China also calmed down. There were no large-scale battles, nor were there any major events. Everything was developing peacefully, and China welcomed a rare moment of peace. Days passed, and after the massive invasion, China's strength gradually recovered. At that moment, some people suggested invading Japan and South Korea. The methods that China had used to invade these two countries had been incredibly disgusting, and now that China had recovered, it was preparing to take revenge. The Goryeo women all had long legs and were very good-looking, while the Japanese women were all very gentle and cute. On the Chinese side, some people suggested capturing their women to be slaves for the Chinese men to play with. Many of the Chinese men agreed and became incredibly excited. The women did not agree. Even though they were from different countries, they could understand what had happened to them, so they refused to do such a thing. The men thought that since they were doing the same thing, China could do the same. As such, they gathered many people, all of whom were men, and started to invade the two countries. In order to increase their military strength, some people suggested a system of male slaves. They could capture handsome men for the women to play with, as well as people with special interests. This attracted some more people to join. However, those who participated were mostly ordinary players and some small powers. Generally, the major powers and families didn't participate. After all, they were focused on developing. Without sufficient benefits, they wouldn't go so far as to attack another country. Chapter 620. In the end, they gathered a few million people and started to invade the two countries. However, the effects were quite average, as most of them were ordinary people and did not have any powerful methods. Most of them were just ordinary people and did not have any powerful methods. In the beginning, they had some success and captured some women and men, but the two countries retaliated. However, the Chinese side did not suffer many losses. This was because the two countries were afraid that if the battle became too intense, more Chinese people would join in. In fact, Legatee Qin might even make a move. They had seen what had happened to India, so they only chased the Chinese people in and set up firm defenses. Following this, the Chinese invaders became powerless, and some people even said on the internet that they would ask Legatee Qin to destroy the two countries. Zhao Fu did not know about this, and he was currently sitting by a stream, leisurely fishing. With the One World Rod's cultivation speed and Zhao Fu's bloodline talent, Zhao Fu's cultivation madly increased. Before, he had been at stage 4, but now he was at stage 4 at stage 8. By now, Little Valley had been cleared out, and Zhao Fu renamed it Yuanzhou, making it Qin's third province. Qin's strength once again increased, and he started to clear out the final region, which was 100 Bamboo. The Wyvern Den had also leveled up to an intermediate town, and it could spawn a wyvern every 3 days. Qin now had 63 wyverns and 7 wyvern eggs. Qin was quite surprised by this. Before, Zhao Fu had wanted to breed the wyverns so that they could produce eggs. Now that Qin had dragon incubating celestial grass and water of life, they could speed up the hatching process. Normally, they would not have to wait for 2 or 3 years. It would only take a few months at most for the eggs to hatch. With the power of the wyverns, it was worth Qin's time and effort to nurture them. After dealing with these matters, Zhao Fu returned to the real world and planned to fill his stomach. By now, it was winter in the real world, and Zhao Fu had changed into thick clothes and called his bodyguard. Zhao Fu wanted to ask him to bring some food, but after hearing the bodyguard's words, his gaze became cold as he said, "Bring him in." The bodyguard obeyed and left, and a few people brought in a cold-looking young man. Acting patriarch. It's him, the assassin who has been lying in ambush in the Ying family. We even lost a few people in order to catch him, the bodyguard replied in a low voice. Zhao Fu was expressionless as he looked at the document in his hand. Now that Qin and Huayu were working together, their intelligence capability had increased by several times. They had also found out the killer who had been hiding in the Ying family. This person was sent by the Li family a long time ago. He had been lying in ambush in the Ying family for a few months now. Unfortunately, Zhao Fu was protected by countless people. Zhao Fu didn't go out often, so he hadn't found a chance to kill him. Zhao Fu looked at the cold-looking youth who was pressed to the ground by a few people and asked, "You're from the Night King?" The young man let out a cold harumph and ignored Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu's expression did not change as he picked up another document. This was information on the cold-looking youth. He was called Lung Fei, and he was 23 years old. He had been raised as an assassin since he was young, and it was said that he was from the Night King because his older brother was one of the 6 heads of the Night King. The Night King was China's top-tier assassin organization, and it was ranked 2nd in the world. Its reputation was incredibly terrifying, and even large families did not dare to offend it. After all, assassins were incredibly difficult to defend against, and they could be assassinated if they weren't careful. As for the Night King's men, each of them was an elite assassin. They could break through tight defenses and carry out assassinations. Their methods were also strange, making it difficult to defend against them. The Night King was controlled by 7 heads, and each head controlled countless assassins. They were quite powerful and had some influence in the Heaven Awakened world. Their reputation was quite terrifying, and no one dared to offend them. Zhao Fu felt that this Lung Fei was quite capable, or else he wouldn't have been able to hide in the Ying family for so long without being discovered. The documents did not state that he was from the Night King, but his older brother was one of the 6 heads of the Night King. If Lung Fei killed him, it would create an irreconcilable enmity with the Night King, and the Li family had paid a great price to hire him. Back then, Zhao Fu wasn't the acting family leader of the Ying family yet, and he was just a minor figure protected by Ying Shi. Lung Fei felt that Zhao Fu would be easy to kill, as he was just a minor figure and could be easily killed without much effort. It was a pity that Zhao Fu normally didn't go out, and the place where he lived was within the Ying family was even tighter. It took Lung Fei half a month to safely pass through, and just as he was about to act against Zhao Fu, the situation suddenly changed. Zhao Fu's status was instantly raised to the acting family leader and became Legatee Qin's representative. His status went through a massive change, and the defenses around him became even tighter. However, Lung Fei didn't give up, and he became even more excited. Now, he wasn't doing this for benefits, but for prestige. Thinking about how he had killed Legatee Qin's representative, this would be enough to shake the entire world, and the entire world would remember his name. He wanted to surpass his older brother, surpass everyone else, and become the world's top assassin. With Legatee Qin's terrifying reputation, killing his representative would be enough to make him the world's top assassin. Just thinking about it made him excited. An assassin's reputation wasn't determined by personal strength, but by how important the person he killed was. This was why he had always hidden himself. Zhao Fu guessed that the Li family had wanted to use Lung Fei's special status to assassinate him. No matter whether the assassination succeeded or failed, Zhao Fu would definitely die. If Lung Fei's assassination succeeded, it would naturally be for the best. However, this matter involved the Night King, and Ying Shi wouldn't be able to solve it easily. After all, she wasn't the family leader of the Ying family, but the eldest daughter of the Ying family. If the assassination failed, it would offend the Night King, and Ying Shi most likely wouldn't mind. After all, Zhao Fu was just a small figure, so she would directly push Zhao Fu out to avoid unnecessary trouble. After reading through all of this, Zhao Fu's heart felt incredibly cold. From a moment he had stepped into the Ying family, Zhao Fu had never thought about letting the Li family off, and the hatred within his heart had never lessened at all. "Do you have anything else to say?" Zhao Fu expressionlessly said as he looked at Lung Fei. Lung Fei disdainfully harumphed and arrogantly raised his head, saying, "You're just a dog in front of Legatee Qin. Do you really think you can kill me? My big brother is one of the 6 leaders of the Night King. After hearing about this, the Ying family's family leaders walked in. Looking at Lung Fei kneeling on the ground, they felt quite troubled. Even though they weren't afraid of the Night King, it would still be quite troublesome. So they tried to persuade him. Zhao Fu, I think we should chop off one of his hands and send him back to the Night King. Zhao Fu coldly looked at the family leader, causing the Ying family's family leader to feel quite awkward. Zhao Fu put the documents back on the table and calmly said, "Kill him, then chop off his head and send it to the Li family, and send the rest of his corpse to the Night King." Chapter 621. Hearing Zhao Fu's words, the bodyguards looked at the family leaders, and Zhao Fu said coldly, "Who's in charge of the Ying family now?" The family leaders' expressions fell. Zhao Fu represented Great Qin's legatee and held the highest authority in the Ying family. This was something that had already been agreed upon, and now they were slapping Zhao Fu in the face. Who would dare to offend their legatee? One of the family heads glared at the bodyguards and scolded, "Why aren't you listening to the acting family head? In the future, everything will be decided by the acting family leader." A few bodyguards hurriedly agreed and were about to take Lung Fei away. Lung Fei struggled and yelled in disbelief. "My big brother is one of the 6 heads of the Night King." However, no one paid any attention to him. In the end, Lung Fei was killed, and his head and body were separated and sent to the Li family and the Night King. Zhao Fu coldly looked at the family leaders and said, "Now, prepare to eliminate the Night King. If they dare to act, Qin will destroy them. Others might be afraid of them, but our Qin is not." The family leaders nodded in agreement. The Ying family's family leader, who had once held great authority, now felt quite timid in front of Zhao Fu's aura. After the bloody head was sent to the Li family, the Li family's old patriarch was furious and cursed at Zhao Fu. However, he then coldly laughed. "Now that we've offended the Night King, we'll have a greater chance of killing that bastard. We can't let him continue to develop." The Night King was also shocked. Lung Fei's big brother, Lung Feng, looked at his little brother's corpse coldly and filled with killing intent, and he immediately turned to leave. However, he was stopped by the other 6, and a bald-headed elder said seriously, "This matter is related to Great Qin's legatee, and if we don't handle it well, Night King will be destroyed. Your little brother asked for it. I sent people to persuade him a few times, but he still insisted on staying." Lung Feng coldly harumphed. No matter what, Lung Fei was his little brother, and he had to take revenge. However, he understood that this matter involved Great Qin's legatee. Right now, everyone feared Great Qin's legatee the most, and everyone had seen how terrifying he was. Back at the Ying family, everyone else had left. Zhao Fu also asked his bodyguard to bring back some food. His previous mood was also affected by this matter, and he felt a little uncomfortable. At that moment, Zheng Jiao walked in, looking quite unhappy. She sat next to Zhao Fu and asked softly, "What's wrong?" Zhao Fu shook his head, indicating that it was nothing. Seeing this, Zheng Jiao did not ask any further and lightly smiled as she took the bowl and chopsticks from Zhao Fu's hands and said, "I'll feed you." Zhao Fu wanted to refuse, but the chopsticks were already taken away by her. Then, Zheng Jiao sat beside Zhao Fu and smiled as she fed Zhao Fu mouthful after mouthful of rice. Zhao Fu could only hold onto her slender waist to prevent her body from slipping. "I broke up with your cousin," Zheng Jiao suddenly said. Zhao Fu fell silent for a moment before nodding. Seeing that Zhao Fu was not angry, Zheng Jiao rested her head on Zhao Fu's shoulder and said with a trace of sadness, "Seeing him in so much pain, I feel quite bad. Can you give me some time to forget about him? In the future, not only will my body be yours, but my heart will also be yours." Zhao Fu looked down at Zheng Jiao, not knowing what to say. Facing Zhao Fu's gaze, Zheng Jiao suddenly smiled and lightly kissed Zhao Fu's cheek, saying, "Don't say anything. It was all my decision. You have no responsibility." Zhao Fu could only sigh. Even though this woman had been his cousin-in-law, now that they had broken up, Zhao Fu did not dwell on this issue. Seeing that Zhao Fu was not as resistant as before, Zheng Jiao smiled and tightly hugged Zhao Fu as she listened to Zhao Fu's heartbeat. Zhao Fu, I want to come in. Feng Shiyu's voice suddenly sounded out from outside. Thinking about how she looked, Zhao Fu could not help but smile, and he had the bodyguards let her in. Zheng Jiao did not leave. Right now, she did not care about what others thought of her. After walking in, Feng Shiyu saw Zhao Fu hugging a beautiful woman, and she slightly frowned as she said, Zhao Fu, you're too irresponsible. Your legatee's official woman is here, but you're not treating her well, and you're even being intimate with another woman. If I report you to the legatee, you're dead. Zhao Fu rolled his eyes at her, and seeing the other women come in, he asked, what do you want? Seeing that Zhao Fu was ignoring her, Feng Shiyu harumphed and turned her head away, ignoring Zhao Fu. Li Muqing smiled as she said, their families have all obtained top-tier boundary medallions, and they're eager to send them to Qin's legatee's side so that they can become his concubines like New Lu. Zhao Fu smiled and nodded before looking at Li Muqing and asking, what about you? What are you doing here? Of course I'm going in as well. I want to see what the long-awaited Qin is like. However, I have to say that I can serve your legatee, and if I don't like your legatee, I can leave at any time. Your legatee can't force me to stay or have any improper thoughts about me, Li Muqing replied. Zhao Fu nodded. He did not have any thoughts about Li Muqing. With such a talented woman joining, Qin's literature would develop even faster. Zheng Jiao understood that Zhao Fu was going to enter the heaven-awakened world again, so she could only kiss Zhao Fu on the cheek and reluctantly say, I'll be going too. Zhao Fu nodded, and Zheng Jiao got up and left. Seeing Zheng Jiao leave, Feng Shiyu, who had been panting with rage, harumphed at Zhao Fu, saying, I never thought that someone like you would be able to pick up beauties. It's quite strange. Hearing this, Zhao Fu felt quite anxious and asked, what's wrong with me? However, Zhao Fu continued to ignore her, causing her to stomp her foot in anger. Following this, Zhao Fu entered the heaven-awakened world and found the four of them at the boundary region. Right now, Zhao Fu was not wearing his cloak. His delicate and handsome face, jet black hair, and a pair of evil-looking, blood-red eyes could be seen. His body gave off an elegant and domineering aura, making him quite attractive. When the four women saw Zhao Fu, they did not recognize him because Zhao Fu looked quite different from the heaven-awakened world in the real world. Seeing this, Li Muqing was slightly dazed, and after coming back to her senses, her face became slightly red. Oomph, he's just a bit good-looking. The man I want must have strength. Feng Shiyu harumphed as she habitually belittled Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu still did not reply to her. He planned to take her back to Qin and see what her expression would be like. It would be quite interesting. All right, eat this, and I'll take you back to Qin, Zhao Fu said as he handed the four reality fruits to them. The four women looked at the reality fruits and did not hesitate to eat them, and their bodies entered the heaven-awakened world. Chapter 622. Everyone they met along the way treated Zhao Fu with great respect. Li Muqing and the other two women guessed that Zhao Fu's identity wasn't simple at all. Only Feng Shiyu's mind was blank, as she was about to meet Prince Qin, whom she had been dreaming of for so long. She was filled with nervousness and excitement. After coming to the conference hall, Zhao Fu sat on a chair, announcing his identity. Seeing this, Li Muqing and the other two women were shocked. They had never thought that Zhao Fu was Prince Qin. Zhao Fu, how dare you sit on that chair? I'm telling you, you're dead. Seeing Zhao Fu suddenly sit on a chair, Feng Shiyu pointed at Zhao Fu and said loudly. Zhao Fu was startled at first, but he couldn't help but laugh. Everyone else in the conference hall also couldn't help but laugh. Seeing everyone laughing, Feng Shiyu still hadn't realized what was going on. Li Muqing tugged at Feng Shiyu's sleeve and said, Zhao Fu is Prince Qin. Ah! Feng Shiyu screamed and looked at Zhao Fu in disbelief. Then, she looked at everyone else and said, it seems that Zhao Fu really is Prince Qin. Thinking about what she had said to Zhao Fu, Feng Shiyu suddenly burst into tears. Zhao Fu felt quite startled. He had never thought that someone who didn't seem to be afraid of anything would cry. Seeing her cry, Zhao Fu said, "All right, I'm fine. I won't blame you." "Really?" Feng Shiyu said as she wiped her tears. Seeing that she had stopped crying so quickly, Zhao Fu wondered if he had been tricked by her again, but he still nodded. Feng Shiyu immediately stopped crying and looked at Zhao Fu coquettishly. Zhao Fu lightly laughed and made the three of them imperial concubines. The Emperor Phoenix statue once again obtained a lot of Phoenix Chi, and Zhao Fu ordered people to take care of Feng Shiyu and the others. Meanwhile, Zhao Fu brought Li Muqing to the Rising Qin Academy. Li Muqing looked at the enormous academy and was quite shocked. It seemed that the Qin Academy had long since developed its own culture. After looking around with Zhao Fu, Li Muqing smiled in satisfaction. "Now, are you willing to keep Qin?" Zhao Fu asked Li Muqing with a smile. Li Muqing nodded and said, "I didn't expect that there would be such a powerful army outside, and that Qin City attaches so much importance to literature. I'm willing to stay." Zhao Fu was also quite happy and said, "Then you can stay here. I will try my best to satisfy all your requests." "Thank you, Your Highness." Li Muqing smiled and bowed. Zhao Fu nodded and left the Rising Qin Academy. He returned to the meeting hall and asked his subordinates to report on what had happened recently. Soon it was nighttime again, and Nu Lu brought in food. Xinru, who was sitting next to Zhao Fu, also said goodbye. After eating, Nu Lu sat on Zhao Fu's lap and passionately kissed Zhao Fu. After a while, the two of them breathed heavily as they separated. Nu Lu's face was red as she said, "Lord husband, you've brought back many women recently." Zhao Fu nodded and smiled as he asked, "What is it? Are you jealous?" Nu Lu raised her fist and lightly hammered Zhao Fu's chest as she said, "I'm not. I can accept as many women as you want. After all, you're going to be the emperor in the future. It's just that I feel that those women are quite pitiful. It's possible that they'll stay there for the rest of their lives, living out their lives in loneliness without any happiness. That kind of life is quite miserable." After listening to her words, Zhao Fu fell silent. Nu Lu looked up at Zhao Fu and said softly, "Lord husband, don't worry. Can't you be nicer to them?" Zhao Fu sighed and helplessly said, "Most of them were captured by me, and some of them even have a grudge against me. Although it doesn't seem like much on the surface, some of them still hate me. What do you think I can do? Of course, I can only imprison them." Hearing this, Nu Lu said softly, "Lord husband, don't worry. Can't you at least try to be nicer to them? As long as you treat them with sincerity, there are very few women who won't accept you. They're all very fragile. You just need a little care, and they will treat you well. Look, don't I belong to you now? Although I used to like someone before and had a tragic thought before I came to Qin, after I married you, my heart was filled with you." Zhao Fu lightly laughed in disbelief and asked, "Am I really that charming?" Nu Lu smiled and kissed Zhao Fu as she said confidently, "Of course. Then I'll think about how to treat them," Zhao Fu said after thinking about it. Nu Lu happily said, "Thank you, Lord husband." Seeing her happy smile, Zhao Fu also gave a trace of a smile. He stretched out his hand and lifted her chin before kissing her. A few days later, the final region, under bamboo, had been cleared out by 1/3. During this time, Zhao Fu found 2 more Silver Lake legatees. One was a minotaur called Kuka, who had obtained the Silver Lake Immortal's axe, and the other was a dwarf called Dalem, who had obtained the Silver Lake Immortal's hammer. Out of the 7 Silver Lake legatees, only the shield was left, and the others had all found owners. This was a good thing, as Zhao Fu was only 1 piece away from finding all of the Silver Lake legatees. However, Qin also received some bad news. Many regions had allied together, and they were all near Qin. Their target was, of course, Qin. As Qin cleared out the 4 regions, many people had escaped to the outer regions. With such a large movement, it was impossible for the surrounding regions to not notice. Sensing how terrifying Qin was, they knew that they definitely wouldn't be a match for Qin. As such, they allied with the nearby regions to resist Qin. Moreover, apart from 100,000 system main cities, they also added 50,000 soldiers, making each system main city's army 150,000. They didn't take the initiative to attack and instead chose to defend. Perhaps they still hoped that Qin wouldn't attack the other regions, or else Qin wouldn't have the time to clear out the other regions. Zhao Fu didn't express any ill will and only continuously cleared out the regions. As Qin finished clearing out the 4 regions, the other regions started to feel quite unsettled, and some started to try to make a move against Qin. Right now, the strongest was Qin's eastern side. There were 6 regions allied together, with 21 system main cities and 1 million soldiers. The western and southern sides were formed by 5 regions, and each side had 18 system main cities participating. They had 6 million soldiers. The northern side was the weakest, and it had 4 regions allied together, with 14 system main cities and 1 million soldiers. There were 20 regions participating together, with 71 system main cities and 1 million soldiers. Right now, Qin didn't dare to do anything to the outside world. Chapter 6:23. This matter had to be properly discussed. 10 million people wasn't easy to deal with, and Qin definitely couldn't make the first move, or else Qin would be in a miserable state. However, as Qin cleared out the last region, they started to become restless and wanted to attack Qin first. After gathering all of the generals, they started to discuss. Thinking about the 10 million strong army, everyone's expressions became serious. Qin's population was only around 10 million, and he definitely wouldn't be able to defeat them. If they couldn't do it openly, they could only do it in the dark. Qin didn't lack people like Wei Liao, Li Si, Bai Qi, and Shangyang. Your Majesty, Qin's problem now isn't to attack first, but to pacify the other side, Wei Liao said as he cupped his hands. Everyone else agreed. After all, they couldn't defeat the other side, so they could only pacify the other side for now. After discussing, they started to carry out the plan. Zhao Fu sent 3 people as messengers, bringing 50,000 pieces of bone porcelain, 500 kilograms of spices, 10,000 bottles of high-quality medicinal pills, 10,000 pieces of high-quality equipment, and many other items to the south, west, and north to express their goodwill and that they wouldn't invade their regions. In the 4 directions, the east had 1 million people, the west had 6 million people, the south had 6 million people, and the north had 1 million people. The east was the strongest, while the south, west, and north were the weakest. Zhao Fu gave gifts to the 3 weaker factions, and only the strongest faction, the eastern side, did not give any gifts. He did not express any thoughts. If the 4 directions all looked after each other, Qin would be able to deal with them one by one. However, Zhao Fu was worried that if he attacked one direction, the other directions would also attack Qin. Qin definitely wouldn't be able to defend against enemies from all directions, so Zhao Fu had to pacify the other 3 factions first. As for the reason for choosing the 3 weaker forces, it was actually very simple. According to the thinking of ordinary people, they would definitely make a few stronger opponents, and then make a move on the weakest, because the weakest people were the easiest to deal with. After one force was destroyed, there would only be 3 forces left, and the pressure would be relatively less. The others would guess that Qin's purpose was to defeat them one by one. Therefore, they might not accept Zhao Fu's kindness. Instead, they would choose to cooperate with other forces and kill Qin first. After all, it was Qin who was a threat now. Now, Zhao Fu wanted to do the opposite. He wanted to befriend the other 3 weaker ones and challenge the strongest one. Because the 3 of them were relatively weak, they had less confidence, especially in the north, which was the weakest. They were the most anxious because they were the weakest, so they would definitely be Qin's first target. At this time, if Zhao Fu expressed his goodwill, the 3 of them would definitely accept it easily, because they didn't have much confidence in Qin's current strength. At the same time, they would be happy to watch Qin and the eastern forces suffer great losses. That way, their crisis would be over, and they would be able to take down Qin effortlessly. The three messengers that Zhao Fu had sent quickly arrived in the three directions. Hearing that Qin had taken the initiative to express his goodwill, the factions in the three directions were quite shocked and surprised. Not only did the messengers take out gifts and give them to the various factions, but they also told Zhao Fu that they were willing to be on good terms with the various factions and not invade each other. They could even sign high-level contracts to prove that Qin was friendly and that he didn't want to invade their regions. If they wanted to give gifts, Qin could give them gifts every year, and the amount would be many times what he gave them now. Now, Qin's tone was absolutely friendly and didn't have any killing intent at all. The northern faction was the happiest, and the 10 or so city lords sat together to discuss. A fat man said, "What do you think about this? I think we can sign a contract with them. Right now, our faction is the weakest, so we'll definitely be their first target. If we sign a contract with them, we won't have to worry about their threats in the future, and we can go back and do our own things." An ordinary-looking young man said, "I think so too. I heard otherworlders say that the faction is called Great Qin, and it's the one who caused those terrifying abnormal signs. It's incredibly powerful, and our faction is the weakest. Let's sign a contract with them. With a high-grade contract, everyone will feel more at ease. AI, let's sign a contract then. In any case, with their strength, we might not be able to stop them. It's best if we can be at peace right now. No one wants their city to be breached and for them to die," said a ruddy-faced elder as he sighed. Hearing this, everyone else nodded and agreed to sign a contract with Qin. The southern faction, a red-faced man, said with a smile, "I don't think that faction is very strong. Now, they've given in and given so many gifts, hoping that we won't attack each other and express our thoughts of peace. To think that we were worried before. In my opinion, we don't even need to work together. They wouldn't dare to attack us. They've given us so many gifts and are willing to sign a contract. That means that they have peaceful thoughts and have a good attitude. There's no need for us to pay the price of many soldiers dying to attack them," a decent-looking woman said. "I don't have any objections. I don't like fighting, and I just want my city to not be invaded and for my civilians and soldiers to be safe. If we can resolve this peacefully, that would be for the best," a scholarly-looking middle-aged man said. After some more discussion, the southern faction agreed to sign a contract with Qin. Looking towards the west, there were many people that Zhao Fu was familiar with. Before, when Zhao Fu had launched the undead disaster, he had threatened many city lords, and many of them had joined the alliance. "I think we should consider working together. With how ferocious the other side is, it's best if we can live peacefully. Who knows, he might launch another undead disaster, and we won't be able to stop him," a middle-aged man with stubble said. "I don't think so. With how evil and cruel the other side is, I think we should work together to get rid of him in case he causes another disaster. I heard that there are people in the West who want to make a move against him, and I think this is the best opportunity to get rid of him." The one who spoke was the peerlessly beautiful woman in white. Chapter 6:24. Hearing this woman's words, everyone else nodded in agreement. Because they had all signed a contract last time, they felt quite at ease. The woman in white said angrily, "He killed so many innocent lives. Shouldn't he be punished? Don't you think he needs to be punished? Do you want him to continue acting recklessly? This is the best opportunity to kill him. I believe that we should uphold justice on behalf of the heavens and give justice to the countless lives that have died." Everyone looked at the woman in white and didn't know how to retort. After all, she had a good heart, and they had all seen her cause when she had caused the undead disaster. Their hearts were filled with anger. It was likely that everyone had been moved by that cruel and inhumane scene. However, even though they were angry, they didn't want to die, nor did they want their soldiers to die. AI, this isn't a world where good and evil are rewarded. It's a world where the strong prey on the weak. "I think I know what to do," a handsome young man said as he sighed. Everyone else also made a decision to sign a contract with Qin. Seeing this, the woman in white could only angrily leave. Then they turned to look at the eastern side, which was the most powerful faction. A valiant-looking big man coldly harumphed, That faction has sent gifts to the other three factions and is willing to sign a contract, but only our eastern side hasn't. I think they want to attack our eastern side, but I don't know if they're stupid enough to choose the eastern side, which is the most powerful. Right now, we don't know what they're thinking, but we're certain that we'll have to fight them. Let's see if we can convince the other three factions to attack them together. That way, it'll be easier to deal with them. A cold-looking young man said as he sat on a chair. A red-robed old woman said, "I don't think we can do that. I've received news that the other three factions have already signed a contract with them, but they chose to attack us. This means that they're quite strong and have some confidence. I think it's better for us to defend. Before we know the situation, we shouldn't attack for now." A voluptuous young woman said in agreement, "I think we shouldn't attack, or else we'll both suffer great losses and be taken advantage of by others. Everyone knows that they're not the only ones in danger." Everyone else agreed, so they decided not to attack for now. They would wait until they obtained accurate information before attacking Qin. That way, they would feel more at ease. The four sides were not united in the first place, but few forces would be completely united. Therefore, it was easy for Qin to sow discord. After hearing about this, Zhao Fu was delighted, so he decided to go and quickly sign the contract with them. The first to arrive was from the north. Neither side brought any soldiers or generals. Zhao Fu cupped his hands and bowed, showing his humility and politeness. "Greetings, everyone." The people from the northern side also welcomed them with smiles. After exchanging a few pleasantries, they began to sign the contract. This contract was to restrict the entire army, so it required a special piece of paper. Zhao Fu obtained an extraordinarily large piece of paper that was 3 meters long and 2 meters wide. Only with such a large piece of paper would the contract be powerful enough. Looking at the large contract, the northern side's factions all gave happy smiles. Only with a powerful contract binding the other side would they feel more at ease. The contents of the contract were: none of Qin's soldiers could attack the northern side's territory or even take a single step into the northern side's territory. Otherwise, all of Qin's soldiers' stats would be reduced by 50%, and their city lords would suffer a backlash and die. The northern side's factions also had to abide by the contract, and their soldiers could not invade Qin's territory, or else all of their stats would be reduced by 40%. The contents of the contract were quite disadvantageous for Qin's side, as their stats would be reduced by 50%, and Zhao Fu would suffer a backlash and die. However, the northern side would only be reduced by 40%, which was quite unfair. However, Zhao Fu was still quite satisfied. In order for them to sign the contract, he was willing to suffer some losses. Zhao Fu had long since made his plans, or else he would not have signed such a contract so easily. Following this, everyone felt quite satisfied and took out their city lord seals and pressed them against the contract paper. Zhao Fu also took out Qin's city lord seals and pressed them against the contract paper. The massive contract paper turned into countless motes of light and entered Zhao Fu and the city lords' bodies. After signing the contract, not only did they let out a sigh of relief, but Zhao Fu also let out a sigh of relief. However, on the surface, they could not tell anything. If they knew about Qin's current situation, it would be quite disadvantageous for Qin. In fact, they might even ally together to attack Qin. After signing the contract with them, Zhao Fu headed south and also signed contracts with them before heading west. However, on the way, for sharp sword lights shot toward Zhao Fu, seeming to be filled with killing intent. The sword aura was incredibly terrifying, and it could cause people's hairs to stand on end. Zhao Fu expressionlessly stretched out his hand, and the sword mark on the back of his hand flashed as the Sin Dragon sword appeared in his hand. Zhao Fu vigorously slashed out, and a massive arc of light easily tore through the air, destroying the 4 incoming sword lights. At the same time, 4 women appeared by Zhao Fu's side. One of them was the woman in white, and the other 3 were city lords from the same region as her. The woman in white was called Jing Qianxue, and she was the city lord of Thousand Snow City. The other 3 were called Diao Nanlu, Zhuang Yuqin, and Fu Yingyan. At that moment, Jing Qianxue looked at Zhao Fu with killing intent. She thought back to everything that had happened in the undead disaster, and it was all because of this person. This was especially so for saving the parents of that infant, which she would never forget. She had already sworn to kill Zhao Fu. She had made all sorts of preparations. She had heard from otherworlders that Zhao Fu could not use his nation armament, and he had come by himself. As such, it had been quite difficult for her to convince her 3 other sisters to help her kill Zhao Fu. Jing Qianxue knew that Zhao Fu was very powerful, but he had to face 4 of them by himself, so she was quite confident. When Zhao Fu saw the woman in front of him, he did not feel too surprised, and he lightly laughed as he said, "Long time no see." Jing Qianxue coldly harumphed and completely ignored Zhao Fu as she directly attacked, stabbing her sword toward Zhao Fu. The other 3 women also attacked from different directions, attacking in an orderly manner. It seemed that they had great teamwork. However, facing their sharp attacks, Zhao Fu seemed quite relaxed. Zhao Fu's strength could not be compared to before, and he was no longer the person who had to use his nation armament to deal with a city lord. Chapter 6:25. Use the sword formation. Jing Qianxue cried out. Hearing this, the other 3 women also retreated. The 4 women stood around Zhao Fu and raised their swords as they cried out and exploded out with terrifying power. The swords in their hands gave off blinding sword light that lit up the surroundings. From massive waves of sword qi exploded out and rushed into the sky. The dense clouds in the sky were instantly reduced to nothingness by the sword qi, and the massive waves of sword qi continuously spun in the sky. Heaven and earth essence qi madly gathered, and the sword qi vortex became larger and larger. It gave off an incredibly sharp aura that seemed corporeal and seemed to be able to injure plants. The entire region seemed to be covered by this boundless sword qi, and everyone felt a chill in their hearts. Their hairs stood on end, and countless wild beasts started to run in fear. Seeing this sword qi vortex in the distance, the people in the distance realized that something was off and hurried over. Zhao Fu, who was below the sword qi vortex, felt a massive sword aura weighing down on his body, making it impossible for him to move. Zhao Fu tried to move, but he could not. Seeing this, the 4 women were delighted and prepared to wait for the sword qi vortex to grow bigger before exploding out with all of its power to kill Zhao Fu in one fell swoop. Suddenly, the 4 women's expressions froze as an even greater coldness flooded out. At the center, Zhao Fu's body was covered by a black fog, and his blood-red eyes danced with a bright blood-red light. Zhao Fu exploded out with all of the Qin Seal's power, and the other 24 city lords also sent their power into the Qin Seal. Before the 4 women could react, Zhao Fu had broken through the suppression of the sword qi vortex. In just an instant, Zhao Fu appeared in front of Jing Qianxue and slashed out with terrifying power, slashing her to the ground. Jing Qianxue's body was like a boulder that had fallen from the sky, heavily crashing onto the ground. An explosion sounded out, and the ground was unable to withstand it, causing a 10 or so meter wide crater to appear. The other 3 women were shocked. They wanted to activate the sword qi whirlpool, but with one less person, the sword qi whirlpool immediately became unstable. At this moment, Zhao Fu appeared in front of the other woman. His sword pierced through her chest, causing fresh blood to spurt out. The woman's expression was one of shock as she fell to the ground, creating a large crater. Seeing this, the eyes of the remaining 2 women turned cold and glistening with tears. Their expressions hardened, and they gave up on maintaining the whirlpool. With a shout, they charged at Zhao Fu. Their relationship was as close as sisters, and they spent most of their days happily together, chatting about this and that. Their relationship was very deep, so when she saw that Diao Nanlu might have died, she lost control of her emotions. Zhuang Yuqin's sword ferociously stabbed toward Zhao Fu, bringing with it a massive sword qi that seemed to want to pierce through Zhao Fu's body. However, Zhao Fu moved to the side, lightly dodging Zhuang Yuqin's sword. Moreover, as the two of them intersected, Zhao Fu raised his sword and unhesitatingly slashed down. A black sword light exploded out, and Zhuang Yuqin was given a big fright. She had wanted to twist her body and use her sword to block, but her arms were instantly cut off by Zhao Fu, causing her severed limbs and weapon to fall to the ground. Zhuang Yuqin howled and retreated, but Zhao Fu sent out a roundhouse kick. That kick was filled with immense force, and it heavily smashed into her chest. The sound of bones breaking could be heard as Zhuang Yuqin coughed up a mouthful of blood and powerlessly fell to the ground. Fu Yin's eyes were filled with tears, and she was filled with hatred and killing intent. She roared and slashed out a ferocious sword light, but it was easily blocked by Zhao Fu. Following this, Fu Yin attacked Zhao Fu with no regard for her life. She continuously swung her sword, and crescent-shaped sword lights continuously slashed toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu also continuously slashed out, destroying the incoming sword lights and causing sword light to fly everywhere. Fu Yin could not continue with this sort of concentrated attack, and soon she felt quite tired. Zhao Fu slashed out horizontally, and a formless sword chi slashed out, tearing through the air. Fu Yin was unable to dodge, and her legs were cut off by Zhao Fu. Her body fell to the ground, smashing out a large crater. At that moment, Fu Yin coughed up a mouthful of blood and tried to climb up. However, Zhao Fu descended from the sky and heavily stepped on Fu Yin's back. Instantly, the sound of bones breaking could be heard as Zhao Fu's massive momentum seemed to shatter all of Fu Yin's bones. Fu Yin cried out and coughed up another mouthful of blood. Her gaze became hazy, and she looked incredibly wretched. Not only had her legs been cut off, but she was also covered with blood as she powerlessly lay in the crater. Most of her bones had been shattered, and her body was still leaking blood. Zhao Fu stepped on Fu Yin's back, and because her bones had been broken, it was quite soft to step on. Zhao Fu's expression was calm and did not change at all. The four of them had dared to ambush him, but it was a pity that they were too weak, and they had become Zhao Fu's prey. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile as he raised the Sin Dragon sword and slashed down towards Fu Yin's head. "I beg you, don't kill her." A cry suddenly sounded out. Zhao Fu paused and looked at the crying Jing Qianxue as he asked, "Why? You wanted to kill me just now." Jing Qianxue knelt on the ground, and seeing the three other women's pitiful states, she cried and begged, "It was me who wanted to kill you. This has nothing to do with them. No matter how you treat me, I won't resist. Please spare them." Zhao Fu chuckled and said softly, "I told you before that you're a good person, but you're all going to die now." After speaking, Zhao Fu once again raised the sword in his hand. Suddenly, a ray of light landed next to Zhao Fu and said in a gentle voice, "Your Highness, I'm very happy. Please stop. They can provide Phoenix Chi." Zhao Fu turned to look at Xianru beside him before sheathing his sword. By now, not only had Qin City's city lord arrived, but the western side's city lords had also arrived. Both sides looked at the tragic scene in front of them in shock. The western city lords thought about it and immediately understood what was going on, and their expressions changed. Now that we've ambushed and killed their leader, is it still possible to sign the contract? Jing Qianxue has harmed all of them. Seeing that Qin City had brought 10 city lords, the western side city lords knew that if they started to fight, they would not be able to gain any benefits. However, Zhao Fu did not mind this. After all, the army was gathered in the eastern side to defend against the eastern side's invasion. This time, Zhao Fu had not brought any soldiers with him, while the western side city lords had many soldiers stationed there. If Zhao Fu relied on his own strength and did not use the other city lord's strength, he would not be able to defeat the four of them so easily. It would be quite difficult for him to kill all of the city lords here. Chapter 626. After signing the contract, Zhao Fu looked at the dying women and waved his hand, sending out 2 rays of sword light that turned into 2 figures. One turned into a holy seraph, while the other turned into a beautiful young woman in green. They were Celia and Manai. Manai was the name of the seraph, and Zhao Fu had asked about it before. Both of them had very high healing abilities. One used the Heaven Divine healing technique, while the other used the life healing technique. Very quickly, the dying women were brought back to life, and their limbs were reattached, and more than half of their injuries were healed. However, they were still quite weak, and the three women with the heaviest injuries were still unconscious. Only Jing Qianxue, who was the weakest, was still conscious. Seeing that her three sisters had been saved, her tears slightly stopped, and she felt quite guilty. It was she who had asked the three of them to kill Zhao Fu together, and she had never thought that they would end up like this. "Thank you," Jing Qianxue said gratefully as she looked at Xianru. If it wasn't for Xianru, that person definitely would have killed them. Xianru comforted her and turned to look at Zhao Fu. Sometimes His Majesty's methods are as cruel as a pervert's. Luckily, he treated them as his enemies, which was why he was so cruel. If he was so cruel to everyone around him, Xianru wouldn't be able to stay by his side. By now, Zhao Fu had forced out the 4 city lord seals and ordered the 4 city lords to relocate their system main cities over. As for the people and soldiers, it would be too much of a pity if he didn't have them. However, they were separated by a few regions, and Qin simply didn't have the ability to move their people and soldiers back to Qin City under the eyes of the western side city lords. Moreover, without the city lords' orders, the residents and soldiers would definitely resist. When that time came, even a single city lord wouldn't be able to suppress them, and it would take quite a bit of effort to subdue the 4 system main cities. However, right now, Qin City was in danger, and he needed people and a powerful army to resist the eastern side's factions. With the reality-harming talismans, not a single player dared to oppose Qin City. After all, these people were all system main cities and system factions, and the reality-harming talismans were useless against them. After thinking about it, Zhao Fu's gaze fell on Jing Qianxue, and he said, "AI, I'm not sure. Come with us and move your civilians over." "No." Jing Qianxue's expression was cold as she flatly refused. She and her 3 sisters had already fallen into this demon's hands. So how could she bear for her commoners and soldiers to serve such a demon? Zhao Fu lightly laughed. He knew that she would say this. So he said, "Then I'll kill those 3 women and slaughter the cities." With the power of 10 or so city lords, slaughtering a city without a city lord should be quite easy. The other regions won't care about this. Jing Qianxue was so angry that she was about to cry. Facing Zhao Fu's threat, she could only grit her teeth and agree. She went with Zhao Fu to persuade the commoners and soldiers. Notification. Congratulations, you have conquered a system main city and obtained 5,000 achievement points. Notification. Because you're the legatee of a nation, you conquered a system main city and obtained a large amount of the region's fate. Notification. You have relocated a system main city and obtained 890,000 EXP. Notification. Congratulations, you have obtained 200 war points. System announcement. The 4 system main cities in the Fresh Flower region have been conquered and relocated. Players will no longer spawn in this region. Congratulations. You have conquered a region and obtained a region treasure chest as a reward. The plan was quite successful, and with Jing Qianxue's persuasion, the commoners and soldiers did not resist at all. They all understood the relationship between their city lords and trusted that Jing Qianxue would not lie to them or harm them. Zhao Fu successfully obtained 4 system main cities, 9 million people, and 400,000 Stage 1 soldiers. After slowly transporting these people back, Qin City's strength once again greatly increased. Zhao Fu grinned. The 4 of them were like a piece of fat meat that had been delivered to his mouth. After returning to Qin City, Zhao Fu fed the 4 women a lot of water of life, allowing them to recover from their injuries. The 3 women who were more heavily injured also woke up. After receiving the paper from Xianru, Zhao Fu took out the imperial ruler's seal and pressed it against it. He disregarded their objections and forcefully made them concubines. Jing Qinshui's gaze towards Zhao Fu was only filled with hatred and anger, as she did not have any romantic feelings towards him. However, the other three women's eyes were filled with terror and terror. Large amounts of phoenix qi flowed out of their bodies and entered the Emperor Phoenix statue's body, causing it to become even more powerful. It was now 40 or so meters long and had terrifying strength, and it was now half as powerful as a nation armament. If it could gather enough phoenix qi, the Emperor Phoenix's power would definitely surpass a nation armament or even a clan armament. Zhao Fu ordered people to take the four women away and take good care of them. He did not mind that they hated him. After all, there were many women who hated him. After obtaining the four city lord seals, Zhao Fu could give them to Bai Shihan, Sun Hanxiang, Wei Qing, and Su Liuyi. Now that their loyalty was 90, he could give these top-tier items to them. As for the Peacock City Lord Seal that he had given to Bai Shihan, Zhao Fu chose the most outstanding Indian person from the Indian people he had bought and promoted him to a general. He gave the Peacock City Lord Seal to him, and now, the Peacock City Lord Seal's power could be fully unleashed. Following this, Zhao Fu took out a chest covered with gems. This was the Region Treasure Chest. After opening the Region Treasure Chest, light shined out as a shard appeared in front of Zhao Fu's eyes. It looked like a shard of a mask. It was black and made of wood, and it was half as big as a palm. There were some pictures on it, but because it was just a shard, it was impossible to tell what they were. At the same time, the shard gave off an ancient aura. Zhao Fu could not help but feel delighted. This was another desolate blood mask shard. Zhao Fu now had 3, and he only needed 1 more to complete the desolate blood mask. After coming to the City Lord Heart, Zhao Fu put the desolate blood mask shard to the side and allowed it to receive fate's nourishment. However, these 3 desolate blood mask shards don't seem to have any reaction at all, and they don't seem to be able to reassemble themselves. Could it be that they really can't be used? Now that he had the Golden Dragon, with its secret techniques, perhaps there would be a way. As such, Zhao Fu asked. The Golden Dragon quickly replied, "There definitely is a way. However, we need this kingdom's royal clan because this nation armament is their core item. Only with their help will this nation armament have a chance of being restored, or else the heaven and earth refining formation won't work." Chapter 6:27. I feel that your subordinate Tuoba Qing's aura is quite similar to this desolate blood mask shard's aura. Call her over and give it a try. The Golden Dragon suddenly said. Tuoba Qing? Zhao Fu thought about it and realized that Tuoba Qing's identity was still unclear. There were still some suspicious points, such as her bloodline. Even now, Zhao Fu did not know what bloodline it was. Shinru seemed to have said before that Tuoba Qing had a massive amount of phoenix qi, and she had suggested that he make her a concubine. However, considering that they were his subordinates, he would feel quite bad if he made a move on them. Now that he heard the Golden Dragon's words, the suspicions about Tuoba Qing's body could be explained. For example, she had a type of royal bloodline, and with her royal bloodline's power, she would definitely be more powerful than most people. As a member of the royal bloodline, her phoenix qi would definitely be more powerful than most people's. After thinking about it, Zhao Fu decided to have Tuoba Qing give it a try. Your Majesty, is there something you need? Tuoba Qing asked with a trace of confusion on her beautiful face. Zhao Fu nodded and handed over the desolate blood mask shard as he replied, "There is indeed. Drip some of your blood on this." Hearing this, Tuoba Qing nodded and cut her finger, dripping her blood onto the desolate blood mask. The blood quickly seeped into the shard, and the originally unresponsive desolate blood mask shard gave off a devilish blood-red light, illuminating the city hall. As expected, this desolate blood mask was related to Tuoba Qing's bloodline. Zhao Fu felt quite shocked as he watched everything unfold. Tuoba Qing was covered by this blood-red light, and she stood there in a daze. She felt the blood within her body boil, and her eyes became blood-red, making her look quite savage and terrifying. Seeing this, Zhao Fu stretched out his hand, and countless traces of black qi flowed out, covering the desolate blood mask shard and sealing it. He then asked caringly, "Are you all right?" Tuoba Ching came back to her senses and shook her head, smiling to show that she was fine. She then asked curiously, "Your Majesty, are you all right?" She then asked curiously, "Your Majesty, what is this? It gives me a very familiar feeling, and it even sent me some information." Hearing this, Zhao Fu was a bit surprised and asked, "What message is that?" Tuoba Ching thought for a moment before replying with uncertainty, "It seems to be about the desolate blood race. There's very little information, so I'm not too sure either." After hearing what she said, Zhao Fu could confirm that Tuoba Ching definitely had something to do with the desolate blood shard, and it was possible that she was part of the desolate blood race's royal family. A smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face. He had thought that he would not be able to find this race's royal family, but who would have thought that they would be by his side this entire time? Seeing Zhao Fu smile, Tuoba Ching asked curiously, "What is it, Your Majesty?" Zhao Fu told Tuoba Ching about this matter, and Tuoba Ching looked quite surprised as she said, "Before I had memories, I was with Wu Qian and the others and wandered the streets. I don't know my parents and never thought that I would have such a background. Is there anything I can help you with, Your Majesty?" At that moment, Zhao Fu asked the golden dragon in his heart. Now that he had found this kingdom's royal family, what should he do to restore the desolate blood mask? The golden dragon quickly replied, "It's very simple. I'll first take her as a concubine and give her an unused city creation stone so that the city creation stone can spawn races related to her bloodline. I'll then give some of the city creation stones to the races that spawn, expand this race to 100,000 people, and use their fate as the core. With Qin's fate as support, you can restore this nation armament. If it goes through the great heaven and earth refinement, this nation armament will completely belong to Qin." After hearing the golden dragon's words, Zhao Fu felt quite happy because this meant that Qin would have another nation armament. However, when it came to marrying Tuoba Ching, Zhao Fu felt quite hesitant. If it was an ordinary woman, Zhao Fu wouldn't even ask and would forcefully make her concubine. However, Zhao Fu couldn't do such a thing to a subordinate who was loyal to him. Zhao Fu told Tuoba Ching about this, and he respected Tuoba Ching's decision. If she didn't agree, Zhao Fu could think of other methods. After hearing Zhao Fu's words, Tuoba Ching's face became bright red, and she lowered her head as she thought to herself. Seeing her like this, Zhao Fu didn't want to make things difficult for her, and he wanted to ask the golden dragon what other methods he had. However, Tuoba Ching suddenly went up and hugged Zhao Fu as she shyly replied, "I am willing to become your Majesty's concubine." In response, Zhao Fu calmly asked, "Why?" "In actuality, even if you refuse, I won't blame you. After all, you've all been loyal to me, and I don't want to let you down." Tuoba Ching's face became even redder as she said in a small voice, "In actuality, when your Majesty brought me, Wu Qian, and the others to Qin and gave us a good life, I started to like your Majesty a little." Zhao Fu couldn't help but smile. He had never had any feelings for Tuoba Ching. He stroked her hair and asked, "Is that so?" Tuoba Ching shyly nodded in Zhao Fu's embrace before saying, "Your Majesty, can you promise me something?" "In actuality, Wu Qian also likes you and has been watching you from afar. However, there are simply too many beauties by your side, and not only does she not have any confidence, I don't have any confidence either. If I say it, I'm afraid that your Majesty won't like me." Zhao Fu felt quite surprised and had never thought about this before. Zhao Fu definitely knew Wu Qian because she was one of the 12 assassins, and he often saw her. She was quite pretty, but her looks could not compare to other top-tier beauties. She did not have any phoenix chi, and the deepest impression that Zhao Fu had of her was her pair of small, undeveloped breasts. Back then, he had accidentally cut open her clothes and seen them. Zhao Fu thought about it and agreed to make both Tuoba Ching and Wu Qian concubines. Tuoba Ching happily kissed Zhao Fu on the cheek before running out, saying that she was going to tell Wu Qian about this. Zhao Fu looked away. He now needed 4 desolate blood masks, and he was still missing one. He did not know when he would be able to obtain them, but he could prepare them now. Once he gathered them, he could immediately repair them. Thus, the matter of the desolate blood masks came to an end. For now, Zhao Fu had half of his soldiers defend the eastern side, while the other half continued to clear out 100 bamboo. Only by taking control of the 4 regions would Qin be able to focus on the outside world. A few days later, it was time to go outside to trade. The gains this time were not as good as last time, and they only obtained 200,000 stage 1 corpses, 7,000 or so stage 2 corpses, and a few hundred stage 3 corpses. Chapter 628. The first thing was that the 2 worlds next to the human world were not the only worlds that had been devoured this time. The Heaven Awakened world was incredibly vast. It would continuously devour worlds to expand its territory. The devoured worlds would appear at the boundary of the Heaven Awakened world, and the boundary would become bigger and bigger. A world was simply too small compared to the Heaven Awakened world, and devouring a world would only fill in a small part of its territory. It would not be able to expand the entire Heaven Awakened world. As such, the Heaven Awakened world would devour many worlds every century to fill in a certain area. Zhao Fu did not know how many worlds it had devoured this time, but he had heard some vague information about the 2 worlds next to the human world. One possibility was the water race, as 80% of that world was covered by water. It was quite likely that the water race would appear in such an environment. The other possibility was the demon race, as that world was filled with large amounts of demonic qi. Only a demon race world would have such a thing, so it was almost certain that the race living in that world was the demon race. Even though the Heaven Awakened world was split into 8 major races, the Heaven Awakened world was not split into different races, and it was not like the races were in the same place. The worlds that it devoured were random, and the worlds that it devoured could appear next to the demon race, the god race, or even the devil race. The human world was quite lucky this time. If the demon race had appeared in the previous world, with how ferocious the demon race was, they would have been many times more terrifying than the grassy people, and the human world would have faced even greater difficulties. However, the demon race world around them was much less dangerous, as everyone was developing at the same time, and their strength was not too different. At the very least, when the demon race invaded, the human world would have the power to resist. The water race next to the human world was quite safe because they only lived in water and did not need much land. As such, they did not need to invade the land, so there was no conflict of interest. The land area of the legacy land was many times larger than the water area, and there were not many water areas. The water race would not invade all of the water areas, and they would only invade on a small scale, so there was not much to worry about. The main danger was in the previous world. They could rely on their accumulation over time to casually bully new worlds, and this was a danger that all new worlds had to face. Apart from this, there was also the surrounding worlds. If the surrounding worlds were friendly, there was nothing to worry about, but if they weren't, then it was best not to have any terrifying races appear, or else they would also invade your world. Back then, the grassy people had wanted to completely invade the human world after the Heaven Domain boundary disappeared. They wanted to treat the human world like how the Lontong people had treated them, and they wanted to plunder resources, land, and fate. However, for some reason, they had changed their minds recently. Of course, if the human world was powerful enough, then the human world could also invade other worlds. For example, they could invade the water race, the demon race, and even the grassy people. However, the prerequisite was that their race was powerful enough. The second thing was that a level 1 dukedom had appeared in a world near the Lontong world and the grassy world. This forced the war between the Lontong world and the grassy world to temporarily stop. After all, a level 1 dukedom strength was simply too terrifying. If one wanted to become a level 1 dukedom, they would have to unify an entire world. It was said that this world was the devil race's world, and it had a small horn on its head. It was called the Horn Devil Race, and it was even more powerful. As such, it forced the Lontong people and Grassy people to stop fighting. This matter was quite important. If the Horned Devil race destroyed the Grassy and Lontong worlds, the human world would face an even more powerful enemy. Zhao Fu was quite worried about this, and he hoped that the Lontong and Grassy worlds would be able to defend against them. Otherwise, the human world definitely would not be able to defend against them. The two pieces of information that Zhao Fu had obtained were both quite important. Not only could they endanger the human world, but they would also decide the future direction of the human world. Looks like we'll need to speed things up, Zhao Fu said as he sighed. Right now, Zhao Fu felt quite uneasy and worried. Only with great power would Zhao Fu feel at ease. After returning to Qin City, Zhao Fu told his generals about this matter. After discussing it for a while, Zhao Fu gave the order to speed up clearing out 100 bamboo. Qin City was like a massive machine that quickly and efficiently operated. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, another week had passed. System announcement. Your faction has unified 100 bamboo, and a massive amount of fate has entered Qin City. You have obtained the highest authority in 100 bamboo. System announcement. Your faction has unified many regions. The main region is Xianyang City, and 100 bamboo is a sub-region. System announcement. You need to establish a great city in that region in order to fuse with the region heart. System announcement. Congratulations, your level 1 great city has leveled up into a level 2 great city. Zhao Fu smiled. He had finally cleared out the final region, and he could now focus on conquering the outside world. Zhao Fu relocated another system, main city, and renamed 100 Bamboo to Bamboo Province, making it the 4th province of Qin City. After clearing out countless villages in 4 regions and obtaining the EXP from 4 system, main cities, Qin City once again leveled up. Zhao Fu went to the city hall to have a look. Village name, Qin City, Epic, Level 2 Great City Village Area. 9,400 square kilometers village territory, 461,800 square kilometers popular support, 85 special stats, territory crop output plus 160%, territory crop growth time minus 160%, population limit plus 110%, resident stats plus 11, soldier stats plus 12, population attraction plus 130%, high-grade attraction plus 130%. Subsidiary village limit. 16400 subordinate villages. Logue Village, Jean Village, Doran Village, Lee Family Village, Wolf Village, Ferocious Tiger Village. These were the level 2 Qin City stats. Next was Qin City's current population. Qin City's population was now 5 million, and it had 8 million soldiers. It had 23 great cities, 5 cities, 37 towns, and 4,169 villages. Of the 8 million soldiers, 1 million were Stage 1 soldiers, 70,000 were Stage 2 soldiers, and there were a few hundred Stage 3 soldiers. Currently, Qin City's strength was quite terrifying within the Legacy Land, and Zhao Fu felt quite excited. With his strength, Zhao Fu planned to attack the eastern factions. Time was becoming more and more pressing, and he had to hurry and restore his empire. Under Zhao Fu's orders, groups of Qin City soldiers gave off austere and murderous auras as they marched towards the east. Chapter 629. The eastern side's 6 regions had allied together, with 21 main cities and 1 million soldiers. They had only set up simple security lines and had not set up any defenses, as they were quite confident in their strength. This was indeed the truth. 90% of the 1 million soldiers were Stage 1 soldiers, and with this strength, who would be a match for them? Their strength was truly terrifying. She now had 8 million soldiers, and even though they had more soldiers than the eastern side, they had fewer Stage 1 soldiers. Zhao Fu did not plan to directly attack, as that would result in heavy casualties. Zhao Fu and the other generals had long since discussed this and come up with a strategy. Crap! That force has brought troops to attack. Alarms sounded out in the 6 regions. The eastern side was not too surprised, as they had long since been prepared for this day. However, they had never expected the other side to attack so quickly. The 6 regions' soldiers quickly gathered, and the 6 region city lords quickly gathered together. A valiant-looking big man hurriedly asked, "How many soldiers do they have? How many city lords?" A city lord who had received news of this gave a relaxed smile and said, "At most, they have 2 million or less. Only 60% of them are Stage 1 soldiers, and the others haven't even reached Stage 1 yet. There are only 12 city lords, so we have a great advantage." Hearing this city lord's words, the other city lords felt slightly relieved. This was a force that they could deal with, and if nothing unexpected happened, they would definitely win. However, with such a powerful force, a single region definitely would not be able to stop them. However, things were different if they allied together. Their 2 million soldiers are being led by 12 city lords, and they're marching towards the east. "What should we do?" a city lord asked. The valiant-looking big man said loudly, "Let's gather our forces and defeat them in one fell swoop. We have 1 million soldiers and 21 city lords, so there's no need to be afraid. Victory will definitely be ours." Most of the city lords nodded, agreeing with what he said. On the surface, they had the advantage. However, some people were still worried, and an elderly man said, "I think we should just defend and wait for them to attack. That way, we'll have an even greater advantage. I feel that something is off. Even though this faction's strength is quite terrifying, I think they might have some other trump cards up their sleeves. They know that we're allied together and have a rough idea of our strength. They definitely wouldn't send 2 million soldiers and 12 city lords to their deaths. So they must have some other method." Hearing this, the others thought about it and felt that it made sense, so they started to hesitate. The burly man didn't seem to mind as he said, "Perhaps they think that 2 million soldiers can defeat us. I don't believe that, as they're more powerful than all 6 of our regions combined. What's more, we don't have any walls to defend, and we don't have any good places to defend while they're already marching in. We can temporarily set up some defenses, but our forces are gathered here. If we don forces and they attack other regions, what should we do? We've gathered all of our soldiers here, and the system main cities don't have many soldiers, so we won't be able to stop them." What he said made sense, and the city lords fell in a deep thought. Suddenly, another city lord thought of something and said, "How about we form a defensive formation and prevent them from turning to other regions? Moreover, we'll focus on defense and won't take the initiative to attack. That way, no matter what they do, we'll be prepared, and a defensive formation will be quite effective. What do you all think?" This method ensured that they could attack and focus on defense. Coupled with the advantage in numbers, many people agreed with this idea. The old man and the big man who had raised the question before also agreed. Following this, the eastern side's army formed a square-shaped formation with a large number of shield-bearers, a second row of infantrymen, a third row of archers, and a separate group of cavalrymen. On the battlefield, cavalrymen were like sharp blades. Because of their horses, they could not use any formation, and they could only charge and break through, focusing on speed and destructive power. The eastern side's army gave off a massive aura, and its austere aura shook the surrounding 1,000 kilometers. There were no sounds of birds or insects in the forest, and it was incredibly silent. Qin's army also gave off a massive, heaven-shaking aura. Their expressions were all serious, and their footsteps sounded like thunder as they fearlessly advanced. Soon, the 2 armies clashed in this region, and the air instantly became heavy and oppressive. Even the wind seemed to give off a sharp aura. Seeing the massive formation, Zhao Fu felt quite shocked. This formation looked quite powerful, and without enough momentum, it would be quite difficult to break through it. At that moment, the eastern side city lords all gave off massive auras as they stood in the air. Qin's army also gave off powerful auras as they stood in the air. The eastern side's army definitely would not attack first, and they would instead be cautious and wait for Zhao Fu to attack. Zhao Fu could not help but laugh. He was not that stupid. If he used his 2 million soldiers to attack a formation formed by 3 million soldiers, it was possible that he would not be able to break through, and he would instead suffer heavy losses. However, Zhao Fu's goal was to draw them out so that he could deal with them all at once, and he did not want to directly attack. Retreat. Zhao Fu gave the order, and a massive Qin army started to retreat. The eastern side city lords felt quite surprised. They had never thought that Qin would retreat so easily. They had just met, and there had not even been a single battle, yet they had retreated. This was simply too cowardly. The city lords looked at each other, not knowing what to do. They had formed a formation and waited for Qin to attack, and they had been on guard against Qin. However, they had never thought that Qin would retreat so easily and not attack at all. What should we do now? Should we directly attack? Or should we stay here and defend? Or should we retreat as well? A city lord asked the people around him. Of course we attack, the battle-hungry big man said impatiently. An elder watched as Qin retreated incredibly quickly and showed no signs of stopping. It was unlikely that he would turn around and attack them. If the eastern side's army rushed up and attacked them from behind, it was likely that they would heavily injure them. He agreed with the big man's idea. The other city lords also felt the same, and there was nothing out of the ordinary, so they gave the order to attack. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.